The Joe Rogan Experience.
What bitches? Are we here?
Yeah.
Bryan Callen, ladies and gentlemen. The one and only.
Good to be here. Very excited.
One of my favorite fucking human beings to ever walk the face of the planet.
Thank you, sir.
And he's here to join us at the fucking birth of the apocalypse as it's happening right before our eyes.
Indeed. Build
Fish
your
dying.
canoes.
What the fuck is going on, man?
I'm building a canoe. I live in Venice, bro. So I gotta have a canoe on the top of my roof there.
Are you really thinking about getting something like that?
I don't know.
I don't know if a canoe's gonna save you, buddy.
I think about all that stuff, by the way.
You should.
I'm always thinking
It's
about
real.
worst case scenarios.
Well, you live by the water. When you live by Venice, you really must take into account that we, just like Japan, are on a fault line.
That's right.
And that shit could happen here. That's a fucking 9, dude. A 9.
A 9.
We can't even wrap our heads around what that means. A 9 is so crazy.
I saw a video and I couldn't believe how long it lasted.
Yeah, 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
That's ridiculous.
5 minutes at 9. What people, if people don't know the Richter scale, how it works, every 1 point is 100% stronger than the point before it.
Right.
So a 7.2, 100% stronger than a 7.1. This was a 9.
So crazy.
This is the only, like, no human beings have ever, that are alive, have ever experienced that before.
It was the biggest in recorded history?
No, not the biggest in recorded history, but the biggest that I think anybody that's alive has ever experienced.
Yeah, and I believe it's the biggest Japan. I guess it's the 5th or 6th biggest earthquake in history, and it's the biggest one Japan's ever.
I don't trust all the... What are you doing with the volumes, buddy?
Oh, nothing.
Can't hear
What did
me.
you do? You just changed the volumes.
Is that better?
Yeah, what'd you do?
I just turned down the headphone.
You're just too high. You just
No, I turned down the
lowered your
head.
shit.
Hey Joe, I turned down the headphone volume because it's super loud in my headphones, and the only way I can turn down my headphones is if I turn down
He's a little
everybody's
high. Look at him.
headphones.
He's denying.
Something's
trying to
getting
keep
really
it
Oh,
together.
all right.
He got a little
Hey,
tense
hey,
really
hey,
quick.
hey.
Quickly. Did you notice how tense he got?
I think I'm sure. I think I'm
know you
shrooming
are.
right now.
Your ears
I
are
think you
very
are too.
sensitive
Just
right
keep it
now.
together, buddy. Everything's fine. Just don't freak out. All right? Don't freak out, Brian.
Is that a bat?
The most important thing to these things, just let it happen.
That's it.
Just go with it, buddy.
By the way, have you shroomed lately?
It's been a few months.
I haven't shroomed in like 8 years because the last time I shroomed, I violently was shitting and puking at the same time and tripping in the bathroom for like 6 hours. It was a horrible experience. So I've been kind of nervous to do it again. Ate them last night. Most beautiful thing in the whole entire world.
Really?
Like amazing. There was parts where I was with my friend where I was looking at them and like their faces, you could just feel the energy coming from their face, like visually. It was amazing.
How much were you on? How much did you take?
Only ate half an eighth and made it into a tea and did the tea process where you boil it and then you drink it and then you let sit for like another 30 minutes or whatever, and then you ate those shrooms and it was awesome.
Wow,
Did
so
I
you
ever
drink the
say-
tea and you
It
chew.
was so clean.
Did I ever tell you my shrooms experience with the last time I did shrooms? Because I was never a seasoned drug addict. I was with Patty. Remember Patty?
Sure.
So I take mushrooms and I eat a lot of them because, I was like, let me see what these are like. Cut to me, I took a 4-hour shower and I wept, I laughed, I reassessed my life. And then I started seeing myself from the side. I just started seeing my profile, and I was sitting on a wall looking down at me, my profile, and I was like, here's a couple problems. My legs are way too short for my torso. Oh, and by the way, I'm a coat hanger. I've always wanted to be a barrel-chested Samoan. I'm a coat hanger from a long line of peasant and Irish stock who are used to being persecuted, running, knobby knees. The whole thing was a disaster.
Genetics are not fair.
No, man.
You look at some fucking football players, some of those giant Goliath human. You look like a guy like Czech Congo. Like when you're standing next to Czech Congo, genetics are not fair. There's dudes that are born like your friend that we were talking about in the kitchen. Your friend, your doughy, small, effeminate friend.
Yeah.
That guy just got a roll of the dice.
He looks like an overgrown baby.
Just a roll of the dice, man. He could have been Czech Congo.
I know.
Czech motherfucker.
I know. If I could be built like if I could have any genes in me, I'd want Samoan genes.
Samoa, just big
They're
fucking.
just
they can take a
studs.
punch too, man.
Oh,
Jesus Christ, Mark Hunt, he's K1 champion. And he's fighting in the UFC now. He just won his last fight, and he's famous for it. Dude's head kicking him, and he just fucking wobbles a little and then straightens right back up. He keeps coming.
They did a thing on if you are Samoan, you are 55 times. I believe this was the number, and it was on 60 Minutes. And I believe they said if you're Samoan, you are 55 times more likely to play in the NFL than any white guy on the planet. They're so
They're
big.
so fucking strong.
The Tongans, the Maoris, and the Samoans. They're just on another level.
Giant bones, like wrists, like elbows,
and fast.
Yeah,
like a lot of fast twitch muscle, not this endurance muscle. Like
remember
this,
David Tua?
Oh,
David Tua could have been like
I knew his trainer.
Dude, he was so badass, but for whatever reason, he never really totally got it together. Lennox Lewis beat him. And that took a lot of wind out of his sails because Lennox tagged him a couple times pretty hard.
Well, I know the guy that trained Tua for that fight, for the Lennox Lewis fight. I've actually worked out with him. And he said that the first time Tua had ever done, he'd never done a squat. And I believe, I don't want to misquote him, but I think he said he put 420 on his shoulders and he did a deep squat. He went all the way down to where his ass is touching his heels and came back up. And the trainer was like, who's a powerlifter, was like, that's the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. You've never squatted? He goes, no, man. And by the end of it, he was like, they had to attach two dead horses to a bar,
Dude, he's one of the scariest heavyweight boxers to come along in a long time. He wasn't able to beat the best guys. He never beat Lennox Lewis, but he could put anybody to sleep. You ever see the fight when he fought John Ruiz?
No.
He caught John. It's on YouTube. He caught John Ruiz.
John Ruiz,
early.
by the way, is a very big man.
Tough dude, too.
Yeah.
He's a burly guy. I mean, didn't John Ruiz fight Holyfield like 3 fucking times?
Yeah, I think he did.
Didn't he?
Yeah, he was rough.
David Tua put him to sleep, dude. Just jumped on him early. Hit him with those gigantic ham hocks fists. He hit him with he tagged him early and then just put him away. Put him completely to sleep.
You wonder as more and more money ventures into MMA, some of those guys who are playing, some of those Herschel Walkers and Michael Vicks, they're going to start coming to MMA.
Yeah, some of the guys who don't want to be playing for a team. They'd rather
first
fight.
of all, football is also ironically way more dangerous for you.
Crazy, right?
Than is any MMA career.
That's so funny that people dispute that, but everyone looks at it in an emotional way. You don't look at it in a contact way. Look at these people are running at each other.
And at 50 years old, take a look at their heads.
It's not a little bit more dangerous. It's way more dangerous.
Way more dangerous.
Those fucking poor guys. Like that kid, what is his name? Chris Henry, the kid that fell off the back of a pickup truck and died. You remember he was chasing after his girlfriend? He was a wide
receiver,
yeah. Really talented athlete, right? Yeah. Well, young kid. I think he was only like 25 or 28. Yeah. I think he was 25. Anyway, it's fucking massive brain damage when they did an autopsy on him. The concussions that he's had since playing football.
Your brain actually shrinks and all kinds of things.
Yeah, you get dementia. I mean, that's what Lou Gehrig's disease is all about. I mean, a lot of these guys are getting it. It's all from head impacts and just irreparable damage.
They used to think, because ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, they used to think was a function of a toxin. They had all different kinds of theories, but they're starting to link. They think they're starting to link some of the stuff to the ALS syndrome, whatever, to head
injuries.
To the head.
Yeah, there was a whole Brian Gumbel special about it. It's scary stuff, man. People take that real lightly. They take head trauma real lightly.
We're learning more and more, I guess, now. And now, that really raises a huge question, which is if indeed you can start to prove that 4 concussions or 3 concussions cause brain damage, if that's the case, and if they're able to actually measure this stuff, it will put a real onus on the NFL to figure out a way to either change the rules or make helmets safer. But then you don't have football.
Right.
So it raises.
Isn't rugby probably safer because they don't wear helmets? They probably don't smash each other the same way.
I went to a rugby match recently, actually, in the south of France with I think it was like the Basque team with the.
God, I'm attracted to you now. You international traveler.
Yes. I go to international sports events.
That's right.
Well, I went to soccer in France.
Well, let's say I summer in the south of France, of course.
I play
France, yes, and. I wish I could speak that way. I want to be that really pretentious man.
And, compared to a lot of people, what you just said was that.
Yeah, I didn't even mean.
You're talking about going to a soccer game in France. Like what? Two things I don't need.
No, rugby.
Tight shorts and soccer
rugby. Okay, sorry.
One thing I noticed was that they're huge men. A lot of Samoans, just huge dudes. Rugby players are studs, by the way. Real.
You ever seen that thing that they do? That
scrum.
That dance they do at the beginning.
The haka dance.
Yeah, the haka.
That's the New Zealand.
Holy shit, dude.
That's the New Zealand All Blacks. It's my favorite thing.
Did you ever see the black and white one? There's a black and white one.
Every one of them. I've seen every one of them more than a dozen times.
It's like an Adidas ad. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Fuck, it's good. Have you ever seen that?
No.
If you're listening to this, go to do haka dance, New Zealand All Blacks, and there are so many of them. And take a look at that dance. It's a war dance, and they've been doing it since the 1800s, and it's carried on as a tradition. And they take it seriously.
It's pretty fucking dope.
Yeah.
You would think it's stupid. Like, what is this dumbass shit?
I got a really good one for you to see. This one dude freaks. He just literally just freaks. They work themselves into a frenzy, man.
Yeah, dude, it's a fascinating thing to watch. It's fun. It's like it's real. You know what I mean? Like they're going crazy, but it's not like I don't feel like you're faking it. I feel like that's what they're thinking. That's in their heart, right?
It's at that moment. Yeah. I believe him. And Jimmy Burke, by the way, our dear friend Jimmy Burke from New York,
love that guy.
in a fight. My friend got in a fight with a guy because he told the guy he looked like a combination of Rudolph Nureyev and. He was this big guy, walks out, he was drunk, goes, dude, you look like Rudolph Nureyev and some other old actor and something like, I don't know, like Clark Gable and the guy's like, what? And he goes, and then he comes back and he goes, what'd you say I look like? He goes, Rudy! Because as he walked out, he goes, yeah, Rudolph Nureyev, he was a gay dancer. I think he died of AIDS, but anyway, the point is, and the guy goes, what? Looks back and he comes back and he goes, who'd you say I look like that's gay? Well, he goes, Rudy! It's Rudy! Anyway, the guy takes his jacket, goes, let's go outside right now. So Jimmy goes out there, and my buddy Jerry is with him, and he says to Jerry, whispers, he goes, do everything I do. It's like January. He takes his shirt off. He's got no shirt on. It's freezing. And he starts doing the haka dance at the dude. But he's not looking at the guy. And the guy starts to flip, and the bouncers are holding him back, and Jimmy never looked at him and just did the haka dance, but made it really sexual. He did a sexual haka dance. And he was like, hey, and he's not looking at him and flexing, basically posing.
We have to explain this guy Jimmy Burke for this story to really work.
I know.
You tell this about a normal person, you're going to be like, what the fuck are you talking about? That doesn't even, I can't even make sense out of that. Like that someone would do that.
Jimmy Burke is 50 years old. We call him the national treasure. He's got a very long neck. He's got very red skin. He's got no eyebrows and very, very.
One of my favorite fucking Jimmy Burke lines ever. He goes, I ran into her accidentally. She thought I was stalking her. She goes, are you stalking me? I'm like, believe me, honey. If I was stalking you, wouldn't have caught me. And I have stalked her. And I have stalked her.
He's the greatest. That was a good Jimmy Burke impression, by the way.
Fucking funny, that
He's
guy.
the funniest, craziest.
I had it for the impression at the beginning, but then I lost it.
Yeah.
I need to be around him more. I need to see that guy. I'm going to be in New York this weekend. I got to get his number from you. Remind me.
I will. He's very, very. He's enthusiastic. He really moves his mouth. And by the way, he's in very good shape.
Very good shape.
And he'll hold that mouth position and he'll go, very good shape. And wait for you to react. And you're like, kid, you know what he does? He makes children cry. Babies.
No.
He goes, hi. He loves kids. He's like, hi, the babe. Oh, and sure enough, not even babies, like 4-year-olds are like, they start crying. He's like, and then he looked at me one time. He went down to the baby, and I was playing. And he's going, oh yeah. Oh. Sure enough, I'm like 1, 2, 3. It takes 3 seconds.
There are people that you meet in this life.
He goes, I look like Skeletor. That's my problem. I look like a red Skeletor. And he looks at the mother and he goes, I'm so sorry. And his face looks like it's plasticine. I'm like, sorry about
even
my
when he says that, if you know him, it doesn't make you uncomfortable. But if I didn't know him and there was a guy like that, I'd be like, look at this loose cannon. I can't predict what he might do. Yeah. He might do something nutty.
Well, he did this. How about this? I'm saying this podcast. I hope he's listening. I literally, he first of all, he rides his bike everywhere. He's 50, he owns a bicycle and a TV, and that's all he wants. He's
that's
like,
how he's always been.
He's a monk. He's a true monk, and he's in better shape than anybody in the world. He says, "Come downstairs. I'm on 57th and between 8th and 9th in my mother's apartment." He goes, "It's literally 12 at night." In New York City on like Christmas Eve, or around Christmas, where everybody's on the street, it's everyone. And he goes, "Come downstairs. I have to show you something. Come down in 5 minutes." Click. I go, all right, this should be good. Throw on my coat. I go downstairs. I'm standing with the doorman outside, and I hear from a long way away, deck the halls with balls of holly on, and he rides by me in a down jacket, cowboy hat, and no pants. And he's riding. He's pumping with his ass in the air, and I see this dead baby bird, this pet, what it looked like a large boy, just he's hung, but it's just that no hair on. He's got little red hairs on it. It's a disaster. The whole thing's and this white body. He's neon white, like Irish, like like lost the pigment,
like Gollum,
lost the pigment lottery. He gets in the sun, he starts smoking. Literally, he's like a vampire. I swear to God. So he's got this incredible, and this woman goes, he's coming this way. And he goes, Merry Christmas, Merry, and literally I just see he bikes by in his ass, and I see his 2 balls, his 50-year-old balls, just swinging like a pendulum outside. And the woman goes, he's coming this way. He goes, Merry Christmas. She goes, ah! And screams at him, and he goes, have a great time. Turns back around and drives back a block in New York City.
Jesus Christ.
He's a streaker, man.
What is he doing for a living these days? He's still personal
trains
training?
People, and he acts, and he does.
Such a funny guy.
He's got really rich friends too, who all want him around. So they're like, please come on the trip. It's a private jet. We'll take you anywhere. He's like, all right. That's the thing about Jimmy. Very few people in the world, especially when they get to their age, can do this. Can be like, dude, you want to go to Tibet? All right, just like that. Like, there are no plans, nothing big deal.
And what does he do? Just call his clients? Hey, I'm not going to train you this week.
Or not. He just goes to Tibet.
It doesn't say anything to them. And they show up at their appointments.
Plus, his dad books cruises, so he goes all over the world for free.
He's such an odd duck, man. I've always admired what a free spirit he is, but also like how like you always think like guys like that are gonna some point in time at least make an attempt to appear to have their shit together.
No, he's an amazing guy, and I'm going to tell you the other thing he is he's truly made peace with he's a true atheist, like a real atheist.
Yeah.
He's truly made peace with the fact that he is only here for a short period of time, and he's dying to him is not something he's afraid of. He came down with tuberculosis, but they didn't know what it was because he had been exposed to it by his grandfather when he was 3 years old.
Whoa.
So he starts going to the hospital, and I get a call. My buddy says they think it's lung cancer or that disease that those 911 firemen get, where your lungs disintegrate from breathing all that stuff. Wow. Either one, they're both fatal. So, and they're looking for it, and they tell him, look, this is probably what it is. And I was with him shortly after he knew all that. You would never have known, and it's not denial. He said to me, he told me what the prognosis was, and I was like, Jesus, one of my best friends. I was like, this is the worst thing. And I said, how do you feel? You seem so normal. He goes, Bri, first of all, if I'm going to die, I'm going to treat it like it's a comedy. And oh, by the way, my funeral better be a good time, and you better make people laugh. Oh, and by the way, I've made peace with my life. I'm not afraid to die. And I saw that firsthand, which I thought was just, he's just an amazing guy.
He's got a good grip on things in a weird way.
Yeah, he reads everything. He knows. He knows so much.
He's a very, very bright guy. Yeah. That's why it's so strange that guys like that almost always, in somehow or another, they fall into some at least semblance of normalcy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're not 50 with an apartment and a TV and a bike.
Right.
Like you try to get your shit together. You run a house somewhere. Yeah, we've got a house now.
Yeah,
you're looking to buy, but we don't know what neighborhood.
Or you're ambitious, which he never was. He's never been ambitious.
And it's not like anything he's self-conscious about either.
No.
Is this guy ticklish?
I don't know. Let's find out, Brian.
I don't know, Brian.
You got some time this weekend?
Hey, did you see what Gilbert Gottfried said about Japan?
Yeah.
What do you guys think about that?
Have you seen it? Well, let's read the quotes. Let's read the quotes. Gilbert Gottfried's quotes.
Yeah, to me it was like, all right, that's not even trying to be like edgy or like I don't know what he's thinking. Like
he's pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, but still, I don't even think that's even to me. Yeah, too soon.
Well, what did you think? What did you think about what he said?
I just thought definitely. Does he realize how many people died? How many kids died? How many
number?
Fucking, seriously, there's time where you should just not do anything. And there's definitely, I think, a time period.
Well, yeah. I don't try to say anything like that.
I mean, that's what I felt. I'm not fucking raising flags and protesting.
I think that's fair to be. I think we should all be more conscious of people's feelings.
This is what 50 Cent said. 50 Cent said, look, this is very serious, people. I had to evacuate all my hoes from L.A., Hawaii, and Japan.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I had to do it. LOL. He gets points up until the LOL.
Yeah, that's right.
First of all, because LOL, especially when you have just the first letter capitalized and then the next one not, that looks really fucking stupid, dude.
Wow.
All right, that looks dumb. Either you're going with all caps or no caps with your LOLs. Okay. Second of all, are you a girl? No. Then what's with the LOL? Okay. Listen, that's for girls and retards. That's what LOL's for.
Are you a girl?
But the idea behind it, that you just start immediately making jokes about all these poor fucking people that got hit.
I think that's a defense mechanism.
Disaster.
I think a lot of men have that as a defense.
I don't have a problem with people making jokes about it. Why wait? I think what he said was hilarious. I had to evacuate all my hoes. I mean, come on, that's fucking funny. I mean,
50 Cent's one was fine with me.
What did Godfrey say?
Okay, you had a much more Gilbert Gottfried. Let's see what his tweet said. Gilbert Gottfried's tweets were, they're not even showing them, man.
They covered him up.
Well, it's not in this one.
What was
one?
Was like a lot of stories where they're not.
One was kind of like, "Hey, my girlfriend broke up with me. Don't worry, another one will float by soon," or something like that.
Yeah, I can't find them, unfortunately.
I think sometimes when you're trying to be funny, sometimes things can go awry.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's just a silly guy,
He's a silly guy who's funny and been doing.
Yeah, but that's something you say to your friends, maybe. For a couple
I've hung with him a couple times, and I've laughed harder with that guy. We did an episode of CSI together, and we just had the most off-color fun in the world. But it was
you also
spirit.
You also got to understand the mentality of the New York comedian, where New York comics are always trying to over-insult you to the point of being just completely outrageous. Like Jim Norton told a really funny story on Opie and Anthony about Louis C.K. and him hanging out in the Village, and Louis C.K. just walks up to him and slaps his pizza onto the ground and says, "Your mother's a cunt." Like out of nowhere, and Jim Norton is laughing while he's telling this, and he's like, "Oh, it was a juicy slice of pizza too. I was so mad."
I'll read you the text that Will Sasso sends me, because we have a relationship like that where we try to insult. He tries to insult each other the worst we can. He started calling me a mule, and he sends me the most outrageous texts. I can't even describe
those relationships with friends like that are fun. Like people don't understand. So you try to get like Eddie Bravo and I do that shit to each other all the time.
I gotta read one of them. Go ahead and get it.
But anyway, Gilbert Gottfried is he's a comic. And when you're a comic, sometimes you write shit and you're writing shit really for people like you. And for fucking Gilbert, if he was at home and he was reading someone's Twitter and he started saying all this shit about Japan, he would be laughing his fucking ass off. Too. It doesn't mean that he's not a sensitive guy. It doesn't mean that he doesn't feel, bad for all these people. It's just, it's also funny.
Well, I called him one time. I was doing...
yeah, but have you ever seen a little Asian girl cry? It's so adorable. Now times that by millions. And then little Gilbert Gottfried's going over there.
Yeah, bro. Listen, man, I don't think it's right to say those things.
Gilbert looks a little bit like an Asian child.
It's funny to Gilbert. It's funny stuff. I mean, it's funny to me, too. Look, I feel terrible about what happened in Japan, but those are still good jokes.
And, he's a
yeah, they're good jokes, but not good jokes maybe to put on your Twitter and
I wouldn't say them.
Throw it out.
No, listen, I wouldn't say them. I wouldn't say them for a bunch of reasons. Because I wouldn't want to say anything that would hurt anybody's feelings like that. Especially someone who just randomly got caught. I don't care how funny the joke is.
Yeah, I don't think Gilbert is the kind of guy who ever...
He's not got no sacred cows. Yeah. To him, he's gonna say the joke.
And he's a good guy.
He's not a bad guy.
No.
It's just that he's looking for the laugh. There's a laugh there, and he sees it. And as a comic, he just goes for it. And then people freak out and get upset about it. I'm sure he probably never expected. He's from the age of no internet. He's from the age where you could say anything you wanted. So those guys they develop that way. You forget how many people are not into what you're talking about.
That's right.
And that's what it becomes.
And that's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. The only problem was that he's a commercial artist as well. He does commercials, and that's what fucked him. They pulled him off of a campaign because, look, obviously this is a terrible tragedy, and no one's trying to make light of that.
No,
but can't you both mourn for the people and laugh too? Is that possible?
And I was going to say, this is what I was going to say is that for the most part, I think in tragedy, that's exactly what you need. The last thing somebody who's going through a tragedy needs is a bunch of other people acting really somber around that person.
Right, suppressing happiness and laughter.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that, you should be happy that happened. Of course not. But shouldn't shouldn't we try to be the happiest we can at all times, always?
Absolutely, but I think there's always room for humor, and it does take some of the sting out of it. It's very soon, but think about how a lot of times you do deal with things. You start marking when you're actually over something by how easily you can make fun of it, and how easily you can take those. So sometimes you're pushing that too quickly, obviously, and I think there is a time to reflect and be sacred. Personally, I think, but
I agree, but there's something to people about making a joke about a situation as to not being able to feel for the people that are in that situation. And it's not. It's just that, God, it's so far removed. It's way over there that he doesn't even think about it. He just says the joke.
Right.
I would never do it, and I know you would never do it, but he's just a comic, man. That's what they do.
And a good one.
And he's a comic that's like known for saying like the most offensive shit.
Yeah, like one time I do every year, I do the Doris Roberts Children with AIDS benefit. So we do stand up. Kevin James does it sometimes. It's a good time. Sarah Silverman. And we get up and we do 20 minutes in this big thing. And I called Gilbert to see if he wanted to do it. And Gilbert's a great, and I know him, but he just kept going, fuck the children. And I go, no, but listen, this is a benefit for AIDS. He goes, fuck the children. I'm not doing it. And he wouldn't stop saying that until I fucking finally had to hang. I was like, oh, fuck it.
So he seems like when he's on Howard Stern that he very rarely has a real conversation.
Right. Because he lives to be funny.
What if the same shit happened in California, though?
Listen, you're right.
And then he did a joke about California, and we lost half our friends.
You're right.
Look, you're going to get...
You would be totally different.
No, you're right.
But Brian, there are guys in Japan and in England and everywhere else that would be saying it. I mean,
I agree with you that it would hurt.
Yeah.
But I don't agree with you that he shouldn't be able to say it.
No, you should say it, but you should put it on your Twitter and openly almost brag, like, look, I'm being fucking edgy.
I think he made...
you're pushing it in your face, I
think Gilbert just he miscalculated and made an error in judgment. That's what
twice. He did it twice or 3 times. He did 3 different tweets.
He did a bunch of them. Yeah.
All right.
He took them down, unfortunately.
I don't think it's the most...
They're on TMZ. If anyone's looking for them, they're on TMZ's website. I think the 2nd or 3rd page.
Okay. I mean, I like Gilbert, and I don't think he means what he says, and I think he was just being a comic.
Yeah.
And probably just pushed the envelope a little.
Oh, we're apologists.
So let me read.
Yeah, he's really good on Jay Leno.
Here's what Will Sasso wrote to me. This is literally like I'm just minding my own business, and I get this text from him, and this is our relationship. And speaking of kind of being able to joke around, he goes, "You're a fucking meat pod." I go, "What? What's a meat pod?" He goes, fucking anthropod made of meat. You're a fucking all fours walking meat puppet. Hey, meaty mule, ready to hang your slack-faced drool much down while you mosey around on all fours, turning the muley go round. Hey, mule, get over here and lick these mites out of my ass.
You guys sound like you're queer for each other.
Yeah.
Let me read these Gilbert Gottfried Japan things.
Sorry.
You're like a little child over there. Here's one. Japan is really advanced. They don't go to the beach. The beach comes to them. Oh, I just split up with my girlfriend, but like the Japanese say, there'll be another one floating by any minute now. Wow. That one's fucked up. But whatever, man. If you're going to want these guys to say fucked up shit about other things, you got to accept it when it's something that, that either is close to home or hurts your feelings or you feel... And I feel bad. I absolutely feel bad for the people that if they had to hear those jokes and they lost someone over there. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's terrible.
But... fuck, is it worse? Does the joke actually make the idea of, how could you hurt anybody worse than losing a loved one? There's nothing worse. The joke is not going to make it worse.
Especially, I was thinking about that, just to have your children, whatever, just washed away.
Fuck,
washed away.
Dude, I watched some of those videos.
Them. It's so terrible.
Some of those videos, there's the initial video where it breaks the wall and you see these boats come over the top of this wall, this seawall, and start smashing through houses. And it's like, whoa, man, like that is...
It's unbelievable.
It's such heavy duty fury, and then you realize how much fucking water is there out there.
It's an ocean.
God damn it! Why would you live so close to the ocean? Like I was in Malibu this weekend. We went to there's a place called Malibu Seafood, real nice place for it's like a good little fresh seafood place in Malibu. And as we were driving, I was looking at all these houses that are like right on the beach, and they're ridiculously expensive. For a little tiny ass house, it would be like $5-6 million. Yeah. Like they're really expensive.
You're talking about in Malibu?
Yeah, in Malibu. Yeah. And I'm like, wait a minute, they're on the beach.
Right.
Like, what kind of trust do you fuckers have?
I don't.
You got trust that shit's gonna stay there?
Yeah.
Like, I remember the first time I ever was in a car high. Eddie Bravo was driving, and we were in Redondo Beach, and we were going over this edge of this hill, and I look off to the left-hand side, and I see the ocean, and it was the first time it ever occurred to me how much fucking water that is.
It's crazy.
Just sitting right there. Yeah. What we saw, the Japanese thing, was just a little... It was just like it moved in its sleep, like the ocean just
How
wiggled.
amazing was those videos, by the way? Like, just houses just
incredible. But it makes you really realize what could happen if, say, there was an asteroid impact, or the Canary Islands. The East Coast has to worry about the Canary Islands because apparently there's a volcanic shelf that if it drops off, and it will, and it has in the past, drops off into the ocean, it will cause a fucking tidal wave that will drown everyone a mile in on the East Coast. The whole Northeast Coast is just going to get fucking slammed with this insane amount of water.
You know what's weird is that when I watched that wave come through, I thought if the houses could withstand it, sort of. I mean, they just go underwater.
Fuck, dude,
you know what I mean?
No way.
But instead, it got all just up. Even like telephone poles got uprooted.
The mass of that water is something I don't think we can.
It's also pushing debris with it, isn't it? It's
exactly.
also pushing.
Yes.
It's like a huge, like the thing, like the blob or whatever that.
Right. Yeah.
You just get absorbed
absorbs everything. Yeah. It's. I mean, it's got fucking cars in
cars.
it. Yeah.
It's like a huge a meat mush of stuff.
And there's so much energy behind it. I mean, didn't they say that the tsunami wave was traveling something like 500 miles an hour?
I think once they get an earthquake on the bottom of the ocean, the ripple effect can be as fast as 600 miles an hour. Oh, God. So I guess it's tsunamis I guess start underwater that fast. Like
fuck, man.
It's just energy, I guess.
They said it created a breach that was, or I don't know what the word they used to describe it, but it's 50 miles wide and 270 miles long. That's how much moved on the bottom of the Earth's surface.
Crazy. That's like those rogue waves when you're on a cruise.
Oh, I've seen those.
Sometimes.
Fuck a cruise ship, dude.
Fuck that.
Fuck that.
I hated when I was on a cruise ship.
Dude, that scares the shit out of me.
Not only that, here's what I think about on cruises. What a perfect way for a maniac to randomly kill people.
Just throw people off the boat.
I'm just going to chuck you off the boat. Do you think they don't? I've been on cruises. At 12 at night, nobody's on that deck and nobody's stopping the boat. They don't. What do you mean?
Yeah, what's that shit called? What's that shit called where they say that people on boats sometimes like gaze out into the ocean and just jump off for some reason? Like there's like a term for it.
Suicide?
No. They call it like ocean's dream or something like that. Like they get tranced
Sirens
by
call,
it almost.
Really?
Yeah, and it's probably I always thought like it probably doesn't exist. That condition is just people getting murdered, and then they're just like, well, another ocean mermaid kiss.
Odysseus. Remember in the Odyssey though, when Odysseus tells the sailors not to look at the sirens or not to listen to the sirens, because if you listen to them, you'll jump in the water and you'll try to follow them, and then you drown. Yeah. And a lot of the men didn't cover up their ears.
Yeah, it was the sirens, and isn't there a Celtic myth about something like that as well? What was that? Oh, brother, where art thou? When the women in the water, are they sirens? Is that what they were?
Those are mermaids, aren't they?
No, they were like temptresses.
I love that movie.
That was a great movie.
It comes from
the Coen brothers are the best, man. I forgive them even for movies that end with no ending. Yeah, because they're just. I love when they just do weird shit. They just take chances.
Remember Barton Fink?
Yeah,
that was such a great movie with John Goodman and John Turturro.
Dude, Fargo, man, still holds up. Go back and watch
Raising Arizona.
Oh yeah,
Elf.
What the fuck, bro?
Elf is good. I watched that last night.
That doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about.
Yeah,
I've never seen Elf. I can't comment on it.
I haven't.
Will Ferrell's hilarious.
You know what I did see? I went to see Red Riding Hood because of I'm fucking completely fixated on werewolves.
I'm friends with the director
of Red Riding Hood.
Really?
Really? You're friends with the chick who directed Twilight?
Yeah.
Are you wearing a tampon or anything?
I know. I'm good friends with her. I did a movie with her boyfriend, Jamie. So.
We play cricket
Did you guys
together.
talk Twilight, and did you ask her serious questions and pretend you enjoyed the movie?
Okay, now, do you think that they really love each other, or how? Because for me, like, I felt that, but he's a vampire.
Please tell me that you got in an insincere conversation with the woman who was the director of Twilight about how great the movie was.
No, we actually ended up playing running charades.
Please tell me
that
you.
I wish I had. She's cool, man. She's really cool.
I actually watched the first Twilight, and I didn't have a problem with it. I was like, well, it's not a bad movie. movie, but there's been way worse movies. It's not for me. It's not my generation. It's for children.
What do you think of Redban?
He liked
Then
the
I
books
saw the
better.
second one. The books are amazing. Oh, come on, my Kindle.
Saw the book.
Not as good
Saw
as
the
the
book.
book.
Try live the book.
But then
Anyway, go on, Joe.
I got to I think it was the second one. I was like, all right, this is getting fucking dumb.
Yeah.
This dropped
Yeah.
off
I thought the first one
substantially.
was pretty
Second
good.
First one was pretty
She
decent.
did a good job of capturing that teenage angst,
Yeah.
that achy love.
Yeah, it's like an achy love sort of horror movie. It was kind of like achy love, but more exciting than the usual whiny bullshit.
I fell in love with her too,
Yeah.
Kristen Stewart. I don't know what it is about her, but I just wanted to.
You know, she's my friend John's daughter.
Really?
Yeah, John Stewart was the I guess I don't know his actual position, assistant director, I guess, on Fear Factor. He was the guy who organized everything on the set. He's great, super pro. He's one of these guys talks like this. We got you over there, buddy. Have a seat. We'll get you in 5. Get you in 5. Just always on the ball. You know, juggles the whole set like a fucking champion. Like we had a bunch of people that did that job, and they all stumbled and fucked up. And people, it's just too much work.
Yeah.
But this guy's like an old pro. He's been around forever. And he was telling me about his daughter doing some movie with Jodie Foster. I'm like, yo, why are you letting your daughter act, man?
I know. That's
like,
how
what's that about? And then meanwhile, listen to me. I mean, his daughter now is like one of the most famous actresses in the fucking world.
Yeah.
And you know,
And
she's probably
so
made enough money to retire for the rest of her life.
She's making a lot of money. She's so pretty. Something about her I just find so like she doesn't try. She doesn't really even wear makeup. She just is. So just so you know, there's so much to be said for people who can just be present and not try to do anything and not try to be.
And,
I'm
well,
just
let me
talking about
before we
people.
start in any conversation about a girl, I have to tell you that you are always attracted to girls that look like they may cry. That's you. You are the guy who comes over
sure
and the
am.
girl is standing
That's
out
the best.
in the rain.
That's the greatest.
and
description.
she looks like she's gonna cry, and you're like, "Hey, look what I found! I found a project."
Looks like I'm gonna save you. Let me get in my horse and ride over there and save you, damsel.
Yeah, you love that.
That's the best. That's the funniest and best way to describe.
That's you,
what I
buddy.
like.
You and I have talked about this
That's
many
the most-
times.
But you've never said.
I had to
That's
rescue
funny.
you a few times.
Yeah, you have.
I had to.
I actively ignored you a couple times, which almost cost me my house.
couple times.
And a lot of money.
There was one time where I ran into Bryan, and Bryan and I were in Hollywood, and he said, "Oh, I'm going to bring this girl by that I'm dating. I would love you to see her." And I meet, she goes, "Hi, nice to meet you." And I shake her hand, and I look at him. I go, "Come here for a second." And I go, I take him outside. I go, "Listen to me." I go, "She's
crazy.
fucking
She's
crazy.
fucking crazy.
I have like the most ridiculous crazy radar. And when there's something really wrong with someone, my body goes on red alert.
Well, guess what? She was on meth.
Yeah.
When she met you.
Yeah, meanwhile,
Which I didn't know. I didn't know what the hell. Meth.
I knew.
Just thought she had energy and she
bitch was
jerky.
squirrely as fuck.
I
As
just
soon
thought
as
she
she
was-
came over, dude, she was so off the charts, bizarre and shaky and weird.
Really?
And she's just saying hello to me. I pull him aside. All she said is hello, nice to meet you. And then I go, whoa. Come here for a second. And I take him outside and I go, she's fucking crazy. I go, listen to me, let's get out of here right now. Let's get out of here right fucking now. Just, you don't have to say goodbye to her. Just call her, tell her you're never going to hang out with her again. Anyway, the long end of the story is chaos, all sorts of things happen. He breaks up with her. And then many, many years later, how many years later was it that you saw her walking? Tell the story.
about a
Walking
year.
down the street?
About a year.
Tell the story.
Just keep it kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we're on the
But-
DL. We didn't
yeah.
name any names.
Yeah, I know. No, it's just
You dated 100
no-
methods.
nothing- That's true.
It could have been any one of them.
It used to be my thing. Nothing really good comes out of that whole drug, man. It's
Yeah.
nobody ever said, "Hey, I did meth and then everything worked out."
Yeah,
I had
there's
these
no meth
problems.
advocates.
I had these problems, and I did some meth, and everything just. I got a new house, and my body looks great.
You know what looks
I kept all my
tricky, though?
teeth.
What's tricky is that Adderall stuff, which is kind of like a speed, right? I mean, isn't it
It's
a form
cocaine.
of speed?
It's cocaine.
Is it?
It's just cocaine. That's pretty much
Synthetic
what it
cocaine or
is.
something.
Is it?
Probably. I
It's
don't
what it feels like to me when I did it. It just felt like I was on cocaine.
Well, that's probably because most of the cocaine you got was cut.
With
you know,
Adderall.
With speed.
With speed.
Oh, yeah.
So I think it's like a speed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's speedy.
Yeah, because the late, great Robert Schimmel, God bless him, rest his soul, and all that good stuff, great guy. He told me once, I ran into him just randomly, and he told me about accidentally taking someone's Adderall. He thought it was something else. He thought it was like his blood pills. You know, he had a heart attack.
Right.
And he thought it was, and he had cancer. You know, he had a lot of fucking serious health problems.
Oh, really?
Makes maybe he didn't have a heart attack. Maybe he just had cancer. Anyway, he had some serious health problems, and he took this Adderall by mistake. And he called his doctor. He's like, holy shit, I think I took Adderall by mistake. What do I do? He said, you can't do anything. Just kick back and enjoy the ride. It's going to be with you for the next 12 hours, but you're going to be fine. Wow. He goes, for 12 hours, I just organized all my notes. He goes, I just started writing. He goes, I got so much shit done.
Is that what you take it for, to be more clear or something?
Yeah, some people take it and it like...
ADD people usually take it.
Yeah, a buddy of mine's on it. He's on it all day. You know him too. We'll talk about it off the air. But he's on it all day. He takes it all day, every day. He's prescribed by a doctor.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know, what specifically they said he needed it for, but man, he's a fucking workaholic now. It's like that fucking movie that's coming out with Bradley Cooper.
Yeah.
Limitless. Limitless, where you take a pill and all of a sudden this pill makes you like super focused.
Yeah. I'm sure they're going to come up with stuff.
That's Adderall, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of fucking people on Adderall. I found out about Adderall when I was on Fear Factor because there was PAs, production assistants, and the production assistants were all like college kids. They were all like doing it, like a lot of them were. They're doing it for, just getting out of school, first gig, and they're doing it, as a part of their classes. And they would start talking about how they would take Adderall while they're in school. So I was like, kids are taking Adderall, like, what are you doing? And they're like, oh my God, I can't even go to school without Adderall. I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about?
That's what I thought was interesting about. Did you see that documentary, Bigger, Faster, Stronger?
Yes.
And you people say, well, you're taking steroids, and then there'll be gene doping and all kinds of things, and pretty soon they'll have nanotechnology that kind of oxygenates your blood. But they said, steroids are illegal, but yet performers can take beta blockers, for example, that actually keep them from getting nervous. Where the debate really...
Can they really? They're allowed? That's legal?
Well, I mean, if apparently, an orchestra, one of the guys was an orchestra violinist, and he takes beta blockers because it helps him... Otherwise, he doesn't get nervous. He's much better at playing. The issue is that is a performance-enhancing drug. You could make the argument,
right? But that's like the difference between violins and steroids. Well, is a pretty big
but
leap.
It brings into question. But the debate still is they're both performance-enhancing drugs. One makes you more muscular because that's what was required in your particular endeavor.
Right.
Whereas the other makes you more focused,
better,
and your fingers are more relaxed, whatever it might be. It's just an interesting debate. You kind of go, where do you draw the line?
I say personal freedom is where you draw the line.
Well,
I think you should be able to do whatever you want to do. If you want to take Adderall and write books all day, good for you. But why would I?
Give individuals the choice. It's like when Bloomberg in New York, Mayor Bloomberg, made restaurants were not allowed to provide foods that had trans fats. I believe I don't know if that law went through, but that was the.
What exactly are trans fats?
I think trans fatty
fats
acids.
with penises.
No, I think trans. You look under a microscope.
Brian just knocked it out of the park.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen.
That's why he's here, folks.
I think a partially hydrogenated oil.
Whatever it is, it's not good but delicious.
Right.
You know what, man? I want to be able to eat not good but delicious sometimes.
Well, if you're gonna make trans fats illegal, let's make two things. Let's take white flour and sugar,
How
which
about
are
fucking cigarettes, man?
Yeah.
Before they even touch
where
that.
Where do you draw the line? That's why.
Yeah, white flour and sugar make some delicious donuts. That's where you draw the line.
Now, if you eat too many of them, you'll get diabetes. But give me a break. You're gonna make it. You can't. You got to figure out where to draw the line. When you start
make people
with one,
weaker.
Yeah, people should be able to make their own choices based on the information that they can. And nowadays, everybody can get information. I'm always amazed that so many people don't spend more time taking a look at what they put in their bodies.
But some people worry about like access to children. This is like the big worry. Yeah, I hear that about adults, but what about my kids? I don't want my kids.
It's always going to be a worry. It's never not been a worry. That the answer to that is not to take away adults' ability to choose things for themselves. It doesn't make the world a safer place. You want to try to make the world a safer place, you can let's take one example. Lower the speed limit to 36 miles an hour. It'll save lives. I can measure that for you mathematically. You want to lower the speed limit to, no. We're going to have it at 55, 65 because that's the way life, that's the pace life moves at, and by the way, people die at that pace. But nobody's going to slow down because the slow down is not worth it. So you're putting a price on human life, which we do every single day as a society, and we have to.
That's an interesting way to put it.
You could spend more money on airlines. You could spend actually more money to really, really triple safeguard planes. You could actually do it. Wouldn't be worth it because price for everybody would go up, and you wouldn't be able to fly that way. We make these decisions subconsciously and consciously every single day.
My friend Johnny used to say, why don't they put a big parachute at the top of the plane?
Right?
it's like such a smart thing.
That's a great idea.
I thought about that. I'm like, God damn it, that's like some genius shit.
Right?
Why don't they? Nobody even talks about it.
No.
I like when they find when they find that black box. And the guy's like, why don't they just make the whole plane
made out of the same shit? That was hack in '87.
It sure was.
Or why don't they at least give you parachutes per like underneath your seat, just in case if you just last
You're
ditch.
Fucked anyway, bro.
Well, but planes
500 miles an hour. You're
they
fucked.
don't fall out of the sky. Usually, most plane crashes happen on takeoff and landing. So that's so your parachute's not going to do shit. It's not like you're in the air and the plane.
What you need is some sort of adamantanium, the shit that Wolverine's bones is made out of,
right?
Like a shield that you put around you on impact.
Wouldn't matter because impact, the percussion, your brain would
maybe
smash against your head.
Maybe you,
or just
my brain would be fine, bro.
Or just a huge shot of heroin with bubbles and stuff.
I got padding in my brain.
Maybe you, bro.
Whatever. Joe's getting competitive with me. He's getting competitive with me. Who can take more impact? This is such a stupid conversation. I hate this podcast.
Last night when I was shrooming, I went outside, and looking at the stars when you're shrooming is the most fucking amazing thing in the whole entire world. They were just pulsating.
You sound like you're riding a dolphin right now, dude.
With a unicorn blowing him.
The dolphin bent over.
Right now I'm riding a dolphin.
The unicorn's licking his asshole. He's got hay around his asshole, and the unicorn's licking it.
As I frolic through a field.
I want to shroom every day.
I don't think that's good for you, bro. I think that's what happened to the Mayans. That's my latest. I have this bit about the Mayans. The reason why they came up with this end of the world shit. See, they were fucking doing mushrooms and like staring at space all day. Like, there's a certain amount of mushrooms you should stop at, and then whatever the fuck the Mayans did, because they disappeared. You know, the Mayan people are still there. That's what's weird. When I went to Chichen Itza, I went and went on the tour of the ruins and everything like that. There's people there that look like those Mayan sculptures.
Oh, wow.
There's like people there that have those Mayan features, and they're really tiny people. It's really bizarre. So the Mayans, it's not like they all died off, but whatever the fuck they were doing was so crazy. That it got to a point with human sacrifices.
I was going to say, when you're
apart.
doing human sacrifice, I'd call that pretty crazy, and raiding other villages. And
it might have been, a lot of it might have been that they were just getting fucked up on mushrooms all the time and just going to war on mushrooms. And we know the Vikings went to war on mushrooms. They would become berserkers.
The Scots, they called them berserks,
Yeah, I don't know what mushroom they took. I'm sure someone on Twitter will tell us, but I think it was the Amanita muscaria, which is the one that's linked to Siberia and Santa Claus.
Really? Because they would get naked.
Reindeer.
They would get naked, and they say they'd cry blood.
Yeah, well, listen, man. If you fucking put yourself on the right mixture, and you got to go to war, you put yourself on some crazy
I'd do it.
next dimension mixture. Like, you have to go to war. Like, we think of war as like something to be avoided, but when you're living in 1 AD, there's no avoiding it. There's dudes with swords, and they're coming on horses, and you better get a spear.
And the weird thing is the way they would fight is like the way they would fight. I always think about this. If I was in the front line, you want me to charge into all all those blades,
dude,
and just fight like that? It's I'd be waiting. I want to be the sniper. I want to be the.
There was no avoiding that. That shit happened.
I'd learn the bow and arrow quick.
Yeah, but even that, man, eventually someone's going to run up on you and hack your leg off.
It's a bad way to die.
What a crazy way to go to war. Those fucking Braveheart movies.
But you know what, dude?
They have two armies, they meet across a field, and they just run at each other.
I know.
Did they really rock it like that?
You know what, though?
I hope not. I wouldn't have done that.
At least they had anesthesia and antibiotics back then, right?
I would have stopped
some sutures.
I would have stopped to bend over to tie my metal shoelaces.
Do you know how sucky it was to live back then? You died of things like tetanus, diphtheria, whooping cough, smallpox.
How about starvation and animal attacks?
Starvation, animal attacks. Other like countries coming in and going, hey, we're going to kill you and enslave your kids and rape your wife.
You know what people have forgotten about, man? Wolves. There's all this talk like, we got to save the wolf. The wolf are amazing, majestic creatures. Yeah, wolves used to eat fucking kids, man. There's a reason why all these Little Red Riding Hood with that movie that I saw, all these things, the Three Little Pigs. There's a reason why there's wolves in all these children's stories. Because wolves would fucking eat your kids.
Yeah.
They're out there, man, and they're getting stronger and bigger. Did you hear about the wolf pack in Siberia or in somewhere in the Soviet Union? But we're forming wherever, Russia, whatever it's called now.
They found meat.
400.
They found meat. They had found bear DNA in their feces. They were killing bears, right?
Well, no, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about there's a pack of super wolves. There was 400 wolves in this Russian town, and they were killing horses. They were ganging up because it got so cold, apparently, that all the animals that they prey on died. died. Wow. So they started breaking into places and killing horses.
Wow.
And there's 400 of them acting as a super PAC.
First of all, living in Siberia in the wintertime, and they're like,
well, I'm not sure if it's Siberia. It's somewhere obviously incredibly cold in Alaska because everything died. Everything froze to death.
That's nuts.
There's been a lot of freezing to death lately, man. In Japan or in Vietnam, 7,000 fucking I think it was oxen or whatever, or some wild cow or something, whatever the fuck it was. But 7,000 large animals died.
Wow.
You know, I mean, with all these massive die-offs, you know, that's happening this year. I mean, all of them together, I don't remember any die-offs just a few years ago. I think they've always
happened. I think in
you
nature,
think so?
Yeah, I think in nature you always have die-offs. And by the way, you also always have viruses that come in and wipe out. For example, the wild dog of Africa. That dog, you know, a lot of, from what I've read and seen, I believe, they get, one of them gets distemper and then the whole pack dies. You know, they just spread it back and forth.
I had a dog that had distemper. It was scary as fuck.
Yeah, it's scary.
I had a rescue dog. He was a Doberman, and he was real sweet. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, man, he just started snapping at me and growling at me. And I was a little kid. I was like 11.
One of the great things we've done as human beings in the 20th century is to really checked most pathogens, most diseases like that. We have come up with an ability to really make them slim to vanishing in our everyday lives. When was the last time you knew anybody who died of a disease? And if you read any kind of literature, pick up any book from even 1948, even if you watch plays, there was always everybody had dealt with different kinds of plague, whether it was influenza in the worldwide influenza that hit this country very, very hard in the 20s, or polio, which put countless children, thousands of children on iron lungs. They died, and then they lost their ability to walk. And our own president of the United States got polio and was in a wheelchair. Now think about that. You know, when he was governor of New York, Theodore Roosevelt. Franklin Roosevelt was I think he was governor of New York. Yeah, he was. But he was basically walking and standing, and then he got polio when he was at the height of his power. And
at the height of his power is when he caught it?
Yeah. Yeah, then he became president of the United States.
Yeah, there's no doubt that
it's
the safest time to live ever. There's never been a time like this. You know, with all the violence that we have, think of the population. The population has dramatically increased. When people say, well, things aren't like they were in the 70s. Motherfucker, do you know how many more people there are than there were in the 70s?
That's true.
In the 70s, there was probably only 3 billion people in the world or something.
But we also have, what the other thing is amazing is we've figured out ways to harness food. Like, you know, India, wide swaths of India and Southeast Asia, and especially like China, went through terrible famines and never had enough to eat, and a lot of that stuff is a memory. Thank God.
It seems to me, though, that these things are happening much more frequently. I would like to think that it's just because of our access to information that we have with the internet and Twitter and all these things. So we find out about disasters, whether it's in Chile, whether it's in China, whether it's in New Zealand.
We find out
about them in real time. But I don't buy that, man. I feel like there's more. I mean, I guess someone should do the research, or maybe somebody already has, and I just need to find the site. But I think more things are happening now than I can ever remember.
But I think it's...
And I'm trying to be objective.
No, I understand, but I think we all have a tendency as human beings also, number one, to, first of all, I don't think there's ever been a time in history when people weren't predicting the end of our race as we know it. And I'm talking about the first century's Pharisees. I mean, you know, or the Essenes. I mean, in the Bible, that's what they talk about. They were apocryphal, you know.
Yeah.
And that is so much a part of our nature, I think, not only to always imagine disaster and prepare for disaster, but to predict disaster. And I think that one thing that's for sure is that you will always deal with these, what they call black swans, these sort of aberrations that come out of nowhere and take the whole chessboard and throw it in the air. And that is as much about the human experience as anything else. I think that if you always keep in mind that all this can be taken away from you, or can change you, or can throw your whole contract that you came to this table with, rip it to shreds, you'll probably be better off.
This is the problem. No one's read that contract. This is the real problem with human beings. We all just exist, and we don't really think about what the fuck is truly going on until something nutty happens.
That's right. And by the way, remember, a lot of psychiatrists will tell you that all of us come to the table with a contract. Like we all make deals with ourselves. We say, if I work really hard, I'm going to get this job. If I work really hard, I'm going to get famous. If I work really hard, I'll make a lot of money. And a lot of times life doesn't work that way for a whole myriad of reasons. A lot of times, by the way, it's because people aren't honest with themselves and don't realize what they're actually good at versus what they want to be good at. We see that a lot with acting and all these things, but I think you see it everywhere. But at the end of the day, most of us, it's really interesting, the social scientists, because they'll say, well, a lot of times we have a contract, come to the table and we say, this is what happens. We get older, it doesn't happen. But human beings are also really, really good at creating what they call synthetic happiness. They can assess what they got now versus what they did want, and they realize it didn't work out, and then they'll just start to really love what they like. This social scientist did a really interesting study between people who won the lottery and then people who became paraplegics, and he measured their sort of happiness on a broad sort of scale a year later, and found that they were both in the same place, because the people in the wheelchair had done such a good job of embracing their new reality. And
that just means the lottery winners are retards. That's all that means.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying,
that's crazy.
But human
if you won the lottery, dude, you'd be way happier than you'd be if you were in a wheelchair, unless you're an idiot.
Well, but I'm just saying, human beings. It's more a comment on the people in the wheelchair.
Yeah,
who are able to kind of.
What I was saying, man. What I was saying that people aren't exactly aware of what's going on. Here's the deal. We live in a society that was collected over the course of hundreds of years of innovation. Mm-hmm. It's created off the work of millions of people that you've never met.
That's right.
And all their combined efforts and discoveries have allowed you to live this really simple and easy life.
Right.
And that's what we're all doing. And we are all raising children with the same ignorance that we have about what this is all about.
In this country.
In this country, in all countries.
Well,
no one knows what the next stage of this existence is.
Well, but I think, for example, if you look at India and you look at China, and especially India is becoming a real hotbed of innovation. And those kids work, they're slaves. No, they work hard.
I call them when my Dell computer doesn't work.
But they're smart, and a lot of that innovation is coming out of India.
I'm sure there is, man. I'm sure it is. What I'm saying, what I'm getting at is, no one has earned this life that we live right now. No one that's alive has. It's a collective effort. But as individuals, very few of us are even putting into perspective normal things like our own mortality, the mortality of our very climate, the mortality of the structure and the shape of the continents.
I think because in a lot of ways we're more comfortable today than we ever have been. Plenty to eat. You can go way beyond your biology. You don't worry about these diseases. You don't even really have to worry about war for the most part. That's new in our country. Remember, in 2011, if you take even 1985, half the world was under communist dictatorships who had their missiles pointed directly at our major cities. That doesn't exist anymore. There really is, for all intents and purposes, one superpower, one military superpower in the world. And Russia's no longer a threat. Think about that. We now have NATO. Most of the Eastern European countries that were our enemies are actually part of NATO. Now, who do you talk about? North Korea and Iran. Maybe significant to an extent, but certainly nothing like the threat that the Soviet Union was. So I think people, you're right. I think people, for the most part, are a lot more relaxed and feeling a lot more secure.
Everything is better now. People are smarter now. People are nicer now. People are more aware and informed now. They're more aware of their own mental and psychological problems. We're fatter now, bigger asses now.
The question becomes, what's the balance? Like, how much discomfort do you have to experience to be great? Because I think greatness does come out, to a large extent, doesn't come out of comfort and luxury. I think it doesn't seem like it does,
but sometimes it can just come out of discipline. Well, and there is struggle in that discipline. If you can be the type of person that really, you don't have to be living a terrible life to write good stuff. You could be living a great life as long as you're disciplined and you really tune yourself into it as you write.
Yeah, but you were talking, I had a thought, you were talking about how, genetics suck, and pretty soon, we're going to be able to kind of choose our genetics. But the question becomes, I think of myself, but the problem with that is that so much, I'm worried that we'd lose our color, because so much of what I do and what drives me.
You worried we're gonna lose the white color?
No, color, like color, flavor.
Okay.
Spice. It's a spice.
Nice recovery,
not color. I mean, like our flavor, our identity. Because so much of what we do, so much of what I do, what drives me, is that I'm compensating for my inadequacies or my perceived inadequacies. That's why I worked out. That's why I did martial arts. That's why I wrestled. I felt like I was
but it's always from the childhood. The place that a performer comes from. Yeah, and me too. And,
Yeah.
you know, and everyone we know that's a comic. There's always.
But what I'm saying is, in some ways, God bless a dysfunctional childhood.
Yeah and no, because you are one of 100 that didn't.
Right.
You know, there's 100 like you that smashed on the rocks on the way up to the top of the cliff. You managed to bite through vines with your teeth and get to the top, and you took a deep breath, and now you're okay. But you didn't have to be okay, and neither did I. Anyone with a fucked up childhood, like the idea of encouraging a fucked up childhood to create an interesting child. I mean, really, I mean, that's really what you're saying.
But the trick of life isn't the trick of life. Isn't the trick of life to turn that which is bad into something good.
Yes, it is the trick, but some people fail at that trick, and then we have criminals wandering through the streets that are dangerous and emotionally detached.
Human beings, it's very easy to destroy a human being. Very easy.
It's not hard at all, man. Just raise them terrible.
Yep.
You know, I mean, when it's always like some feral child in Russia you hear about raised by dogs, and you're like, holy fuck.
Right.
And you just stop and think about it. Like, what the fuck? The kid's been eating dead birds and shit.
Well, that's what's interesting about. That's the thing about.
Can you imagine getting raised by dogs, but like poodles or something like that? Like,
that's the thing about what's so weird about contemplating like disaster like the one in Japan. Any disaster, anything has a ripple effect, and the crazy thing is that sometimes to one person's loss is another person's opportunity. It's just that dance that constantly goes back and forth, and there's one side, something terrible happens and it opens up a whole new world and opportunity for a whole nother group of people. You know, whether it's somebody opens a company that provides quake relief, and now he's employed 60 people who can feed their kids, whatever the case.
Right.
It's just this constant dance, man. And whenever you try to pinpoint or treat life like it's a noun, you're in trouble. And by the way, your relationships are a verb. Everything is a verb.
Yeah.
Everything is always moving. Everything is in flux.
Yeah, you are too. You know,
Absolutely.
everything is. The whole thing is. There's nothing static, but that's what everybody looks for.
That's the problem with the contract.
Everybody
That's the
looks
problem
for
with coming to the
those
table with a
golden
contract.
years. They look for that moment where they can stop.
No, man.
You know?
I think if you keep growing and you keep surprising and shocking yourself, and maybe even scaring yourself, which is hard to do. But if you
sound like an actress right now doing an interview for Esquire.
I was about to sing a song, dude. You got in the way of my song.
You guys sound like some new chick in the next blockbuster
Wouldn't that be
movie
embarrassing
that's
if I was
annoy
like,
the fuck out of me.
I am beautiful.
The worst earthquake, you know, everyone's talking about what Gilbert Gottfried said. No one said dumber shit than what Sharon Stone said after the Chinese earthquake.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that?
No.
She said, maybe, you know, I'm friends with the Dalai Lama. You know, maybe this earthquake in China is karma because of the terrible things they've done for Tibet.
Wow, I remember that. Actually.
What? Like, you think innocent people, thousands
Thanks a
of
lot,
them,
Sharon. You're an actress.
crushed by rocks.
All that.
You know, and she's a name-dropping little twat. I'm friends with the Dalai Lama.
I'm sure
Who asked you, hooker?
I'm sure he thinks about you all the
Yeah,
time.
constantly.
I'm sure when he's doing his mantras, he's like, Sharon Stone, Sharon Stone.
Ugh.
You know Sharon. You know the girl from Basic Instinct,
Actresses.
etc.
No, excuse me. You mean the girl from Above the Law, the Steven Seagal debut movie?
All actors, including me. Look, the fact that we worship actors is the funniest thing in the world. If an alien came down, they'd be like, wait a minute, you're worshiping these people who are basically good at being emotionally available and pretending? Is that really something that it's a skill? It tells a good story. They're
What's
part
more
of the story.
impressive, that or golf?
Golf. Golf takes a lifetime.
Yeah, but I like movies, and Tiger Woods
love
probably
movies.
can't
Yeah,
act.
fuck golf.
I
don't know, man.
I love
because
movies.
I think both are equally ridiculous. You know, I've always said that it's one of the funniest things in the world that people like think that a guy's a hero because he hits a ball into a hole in the ground.
Yeah, but you know what I like about
so
golf?
silly.
But you know what I like about any competition like golf or any game is that it requires, when you want to win at that game, it requires you to basically do all that self-examination.
Yes.
You got to face up to all your obstacles. You got to deal with your performance anxiety. You know how it is to try to get better. You see
listen,
fighters
man,
who choke. That's the point of competition.
I probably would love golf. That's why I'm terrified
You
of
would
it.
love.
But I play pool.
You
yeah.
would, dude.
That's
don't
enough.
ever pick up a golf. Don't ever take. You'll freak
I'm not
out.
going to. I
'Cause
went.
I know how
never
you
say
are.
never. I know.
I'm
Yeah,
not
but
going to. I
but
won't
Joe-
play chess either. It's for the same
But
reason.
for those of you guys who don't know this about Joe Rogan, I've always said most of the public actually knows very little about Joe. For example, he can draw really well. He's a notch below pro pool
Take my
player.
pants off earlier.
He is. He is. He knows more about pool, and he's actually a really good draftsman. You can draw like really well.
That's what I wanted to do when I was in high school, before I got into martial arts.
But I mean, so
I wanted
so
to be a
you're
comic book author.
you're a great
Me
martial.
too.
You're a
Me
real
too.
you're
I
a
have a bunch
real
of my
martial
comics,
artist.
yeah.
You'd be a nightmare to fight. You can draw really well, and you
I'm short, balding.
you're short, balding, you
Stinky
hung
feet.
like a donkey.
My asshole's never clean.
Are you not wearing pants, Joe?
I
That's so
always have
weird.
dirt underneath my
That's how I do
fingernails.
it.
But wait, there was a point I was making, and I'm too high to remember it. Damn it.
Pool, playing games.
Oh yeah, but the problem is that you're so intense that once you pick something up, it's like that game Quake when you played for 15 hours and then passed out as you were leaving your. He drags me to the store and he's getting these handles, and he's like 30. He's getting his handles and all these like weird things. And I was like, "What are you doing? What's all these? What are these grips and stuff?" He goes, "It's for Quake. I'm playing somebody in Sweden tomorrow. I will crush him." I was like, "Whatever," with the 1,000-yard stare, dude.
Have you played Connect yet,
dude?
Joe?
You have no idea how we've talked about this in the podcast way too many times. But Quake is too fun. Quake is even more involving than pool.
See,
I won't allow myself.
I've always been
Quake.
afraid of those games because I'm.
Yeah, they're too good now. Like Gears of War, like Cliffy B put up, Epic Games put up the Unreal 3 engine, the new engine. Right. They put up a demo. Fucking A, man. It just doesn't. Cool? It looks real. It looks like a fucking movie, man. It's so good.
I do this joke now about how we're fighting wars now like that, you know, like with drones and stuff. Guys in Nevada and Florida, think about that. You're killing somebody 5,000 miles away, but it's a video game and you're actually taking life. You wonder what that does to you psychologically when you come home and you're eating dinner. But my joke was like, in 20 years, the war hero is not going to be the grizzled guy with the shaved head and the scars. He's going to be the chubby dude with huge thumb muscles who smells like Doritos and weed. You know what I mean?
Well, that was that movie,
right?
Starfighter. Remember the movie where the kid had to get really good at a video game, and when he got good at it, they came down and took him to fight in the galaxy.
That's what it's going to be.
Yeah. Well, these Pakistan drone things are fucking frightening because it's such a gray area too. It's like we're not really in Pakistan, but we are in the sky above Pakistan. But there's no one in the plane, and
you don't hear it. You just hear. When I was in Afghanistan, I watched those things taking off all the time. I was like, look at that thing. It's not even manned. It just takes off.
Dude, Hellfire missiles. Yeah. That's all you need to know. What are you doing, bro?
See this Cliffy B's Epic Games Infinity Blade video game.
Okay.
They go through like that Hellfire missile. I believe somebody told me can go through like a foot of steel or something. Like a foot of steel.
The idea behind it is so crazy that you can just pilot something from halfway across the world in real time and trust it to just you pull the trigger.
It's only the beginning.
How much of a delay is the lag? There has to be some lag.
I don't know. You can actually watch it on the internet.
Because that's a big thing about playing online. When you play online, it's all about your ping. And if you have like 1 ping or 2 ping, like you're in the server, you're local to the server.
Does that matter anymore though?
Isn't
internet like so fast nowadays?
No.
What do you mean by
ping?
What do you mean by ping?
What ping is in milliseconds. It absolutely matters.
Really?
It's the guy with a higher ping than you can still beat you, but you definitely have an advantage when you're local. Like say if we set up a server in my house, right? And I set up a server and I'm here connected to the machine, but other people have to connect and get the information through the internet. So they're paying, say if they're down the block, at the lowest they're going to get is maybe a 10. This is back in the day. I don't know if it's changed, but you get like 10 ping if you're lucky. But that's because you're here. But if you're in Sweden or somewhere like that, no doubt about it, you're going to have a slight delay. It might be 150 milliseconds. Right. It might be 200 milliseconds. It won't be a full second. That's unbearable. You can't do that. 250 milliseconds is where it gets squirrely. Like you can't really.
Well, what's weird about that is human reaction can get to the point where you can't you can barely measure it. Like when they do sprinting, you know how with the Olympics, you know why they shoot the gun? They shoot a gun, but that's for a sound. That's for effect. They actually, if you're running the 100 like Usain Bolt, and you're in a race, they have that. They shoot that sound off behind you. Why? Because it's got to reach all the guys at the same time. If you shoot it like this, the guy at the end is the last to hear about it, and they're so fast off the blocks that the other guy's already going to win the race. You didn't hear it in time.
So
they found that when they shot back in the day, they'd be shooting it here. The guy closest to the gun would always had this advantage, and so now, and even when they send that sound off now behind these guys, the problem is the sound dissipates to here, so it starts. You gotta have it. You gotta have it originate somewhere. How do you get it to all of them at the exact same second? Because they're so fast off the blocks. You're actually giving the guy who hears it first an advantage, and they win. It's like the guy. And check this out. You know what the difference between 4th place and 1st place in the downhill ski event was in whatever it was. It was 2 blinks of an eye. Gang gang. Is it ready? Gold, nothing. Gold, nothing.
Whoa.
Gold, nothing.
That's fucking nuts.
That's why swimmers trim their fingernails. That's why. I mean, don't trim their finger. They try to keep their fingernails long.
Why? To act as like little paddles?
No, so that you can touch, because you're dealing with hundredths of a second.
What?
Yeah.
They grow pimp nails?
You try to. It's all computerized. So the minute you touch that,
so if you were built like Husamar Palhares, you'd be a terrible swimmer because you wouldn't be able to have that big reach.
Those guys are albatrosses.
Underring nails.
That's fucking fascinating.
So that's how fast human beings.
Okay, let me ask you this: how many of those guys do you think are doping? How many of those guys in Olympic competition?
I don't think it's possible to compete in a lot of Olympic sports without doping and without doing drugs.
Yeah, like cycling.
There's no way. Why do you think all of them? Why do you think all of them get caught?
All of them.
It's the biggest joke. I mean, but
they're going after Lance Armstrong, bro.
I'm sure.
They're going after him. Which is weird. It's like they get him on lying, which is a very strange thing. Yeah. It's like, wait a minute, if you're gonna put people in jail for lying, how about most of the government? You can't sustain a lie. Nobody ever went to jail for taking steroids, but people have gone to jail for lying to the government about. Listen, if they take his money away, or if they take, say that you did some stuff that was against the rules, and you should be fined, and we can prove that. That's one thing. But they're going after him to lock him up, man. They're going after him to set an example and lock him up for something that everyone's doing.
Everyone is doing.
Especially in cycling.
But remember, he wouldn't be arrested for doing steroids. They wouldn't lock him up for that. They would lock him up for committing perjury.
Yeah.
There's a big difference.
Weird, right? That's how they got Al Capone.
That's how they get everything.
Right? Or no, they got him on tax
That's what
evasion.
the case against Barry Bonds is. The case is you perjured yourself on the stand, right?
How weird is that? Like, you have to tell us the truth, and if you don't, it's a crime.
Well, you don't know. You have the right to take the fifth.
Right, but
you can say nothing, which is one of the great things about our system. You can choose to not incriminate yourself. I refuse to speak because I don't want to incriminate myself, and that's all.
Right, but don't they lock people up when they do that?
You can be locked up if you are given, I believe, now I'm not a legal scholar.
I mean, aren't they doing that all the time?
What I believe you can be locked up is if you have evidence and the government subpoenas that evidence and you refuse to speak. If you say, I'm not telling on my friend, you can go to jail for that. They can put you in jail for that. And they have. They put a journalist in jail because she wouldn't divulge her sources, and I believe that was in the Valerie Plame case.
Yeah, that's creepy shit.
She said, "I'm not going to divulge who told me that this person was a CIA operative or whatever," and she went to jail. And then Scooter Libby, I'm not sure if I'm getting all my facts right, but Scooter Libby, it turns out, was pardoned by the president later on, but convicted of divulging an agent, a U.S. agent's identity to a non-authorized person, which is a crime in this country.
It's so bizarre how many different people we have all over the world that are in military bases and that are government operatives of the United States. And we have them positioned all over the world to kind of keep an eye on everybody.
We always have, and it comes from the Cold War, and it's a dangerous place. But the real issue becomes what is the U.S.'s strength has always been not that its power comes from the barrel of a gun. The U.S. has always been. It's influence, innovation, but mostly it's a beacon of hope where you can come here, and if you got the stuff and you got the metal, you might just be a millionaire. That is something that resonates throughout the entire world and always has.
I wanted to ask you this because you've got some experience in the Middle East. What do you think is happening with all these different places, with Saudi Arabia, with Egypt?
I think it's a beautiful thing, and it's a human thing, and I'll tell you what I think most of all. I think that you heard a lot of analysts and professionals and people who follow this stuff and people who are so-called experts, and I used to always hear something. They used to always say this: democracy is not synonymous with Islam. You'd hear that all the time, and I think what this proves is that democracy, and let me define democracy, the desire for representative government. Let's just take that: the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Just let me pursue whatever it is. Those kinds of things. Being able to speak my mind, being able to petition my government, being able to say something against my government, being able to all the things that we take for granted. Those are human rights, and they are not American rights. They are human rights, and this proves that you can say whatever you want about Islam or anything else or any other religion. Human beings want a better life for their children. Human beings would choose to have representative government over a dictatorship like Hosni Mubarak or a dictatorship like the royal family essentially is in Saudi Arabia. Don't tell me any human being wants to live that way. And I find it very inspiring that one man in Tunisia lit himself on fire. You want to talk about a ripple effect. Lit himself on fire because they took away his license. I believe he was selling fruit. And he said enough is enough. He was so desperate and he said, I'm going to make an example. This is my protest. You want to take everything from me? I'll light myself on fire. And
I don't think that's a good move.
But that was a spark that caused that said we don't have to be afraid anymore. We don't have to cringe. And saying that in these governments like Egypt and those places where the military and secret police come in and do some pretty awful things to you, that takes real guts. So I think this is an incredible time in the sense that the Middle East is changing. It really is changing.
It really is the internet nation.
Of course it is. You can't keep information away from people. You can fool the people sometimes. You can fool all the people sometimes. You can fool some of the people all of the time. You can't fool all the people all the time.
Except North Korea.
And who said that? I believe that was Abe Lincoln, right?
Did he say that?
Yeah.
Who knows what the fuck Abe really said?
Yeah.
You know, Abe Lincoln was a racist. Well, he was trying to encourage black people to move to South America because they wouldn't get along with white people.
It's actually more complicated than that, but I think he was also the guy who said
it's more complicated than that. Of course he is. Yeah. He slept with dudes too.
Hey, what? Easy.
Slept with dudes. They slept in bed together. Stay warm.
Well, listen,
no big deal. You got to do what you got to do, man. You live in a fucking prairie.
If a wrestling match breaks out, somebody's cock flies out of a Speedo, then you're going to call me gay?
Wasn't Abe Lincoln a wrestler?
He was very strong. He was about 6'4", and he was very, very strong. They said he used to be able to hold an axe, like one of those big wood chopping axes, out for like longer than anybody else with his arms straight like that. He was a real wiry, strong dude. Somber guy.
Axe straight with his arm. What a weird competition that is.
Well, that back in the day, they did all those
hopscotch hard.
They did all those weird things, right? Like let's see you hold the hind quarters of a mule up above your head, Yeah,
there had to be a first guy back then to try to wrestle a bear, too.
I always think about that stuff.
Yeah.
Who wrote a bull? Who said, hey, you know what? Throw a testicle cinch on that bull. I'm going to get up on him and see how long I can stay.
What country does that originate in? Is that an American tradition?
I believe that, it probably started in Spain. They were like, not going to ride it. I'm just going to kill it with a sword.
Right.
It's pretty badass.
Yeah. You know what bothers me about that, though, man? There's a bunch of other dudes helping out.
Because the Madeira bull, I think it's called the Madeira bull. Hemingway wrote a book called Death in the Afternoon, and he kind of brings you through what a fighting bull's about. You're not allowed in Spain. You're not, and some of you guys are listening to this. I just check this out. You're not allowed in Spain to approach a fighting bull on foot. You must approach it on a bicycle, motorcycle, or car. You know why?
Why?
Because bulls figure out the way you move, and if they watch you walking around all the time and running around, when you put them in the ring with the matador, that matador doesn't have a chance because they figured you out. The first time a bull ever sees a human being on 2 feet by law in Spain is when he's put out there in front of that matador. And by the way, they gotta rub his eyes with pepper to keep him a little bit blind. The picadillos come in there and stab him in the back so he can't lift his head. So he's got these spears in his. It's pretty brutal. Yeah. They gotta disable that bull before a human being has any shot at fighting it. Any shot, and they still die. They still die. When you're a matador in Spain, that's who you are. Forget girls, forget music, forget everything else. Your life is about the bull.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Is there a lot of money in being a matador?
There's huge glory and money, and you're a national hero if you're good. And by the way, it's probably like the UFC. You start with guys who are fighting, kind of with blunt horns, and then all the way up to the big show. But when they used to pit bulls with bears. Guess who used to always win?
Oh, I would say the bull. Yeah, I would say every time. They're so strong, man. Tigers and you ever touched one? You ever been on one or anything?
Yeah.
Have you ridden a bull?
No, but I've touched it.
I've been to Saddle Ranch.
Same thing, sort of.
Totally the same thing. When we were doing Fear Factory, we made people ride bulls one day. It was the scariest it's ever been. Any day of filming, this is one day where I felt like we crossed the line.
Dude,
I was like, "What are you doing?"
Bulls are dangerous.
Yeah,
they are not. They're they're bulls.
This was their argument. These are training bulls. They're not as aggressive. I'm like, does that bull know he's a fucking training bull?
Right.
I didn't know you were a bull mind reader. Where's the bull whisperer? Is he around? I love when people think they know what an animal is.
Yeah,
I love when they're like, nah, he's trained. This tiger won't bite you.
Well, you were talking about it to me in the kitchen. We were talking about that
Grizzly bear.
trained bear that tore the, I think it was his trainer's brother or cousin.
It was
or
his
something.
cousin, and it killed him in a couple of seconds.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Which is so weird because that's a 1,500-pound bear. Grabbed a hold of him and
For
shook
no
him.
reason.
And it shook him lazy in a lazy
Yeah.
way. And the poor guy,
Oh, I
guess
thought it was pretty aggressive. It was
Yeah,
pretty
I mean,
aggressive.
obviously.
The guy must have.
It's so
I don't know
scary
what it
when it's-
represented to the bear, but it represented some sort of a threat. It
Well,
was weird.
apparently, though, he was doing what he was supposed to do, and I guess the guy didn't have his arms up or something, and the bear ended up grabbing onto his neck, and his instinct took over, and he said, "Oh, I'm going to shake you to death," which is terrible.
You're supposed to have your arms up.
I don't know. I don't.
The bear's got to stick 'em up pose.
My bear wrestling is. I'm a white belt still. I'm still.
So, what do you think the fuck is going on with all these mass deaths? There's a million fish die in the Redondo Beach harbor. All these animals that have died, birds that are falling from the sky.
I think it's
You don't-
Banksy.
I don't know, but I would imagine we have a very polluted environment, and probably is a combination of all those chemicals in the environment. And chemicals are being made. You know, we're very good at coming up with synthetic material and synthetic chemicals. And what we're probably not as good at, and what the FDA could never do, is figure out how all these chemicals, when put together, interact, or how they, what they do to mytoplasma, and if that's even, I like using big words, but like what they do to our bodies on prolonged, you know, when we drink them, when we're around them all the time. Look at your house. All these new products that come out that have huge advertising campaigns, they're probably very safe on their own. What happens when you mix 6 of them in the perfect combination? What is that doing to your genetics?
What's Wi-Fi doing to you?
Yeah.
Who knows what the fuck that's doing?
I think
to
we're
you?
always we know
Cell
that
phones.
sonar gets in the way of whales migratory.
Fucks whales up, right?
Things. Yeah. So it's always this constant dance of how, you know, in China now, what they're doing I think is really interesting is a lot of the architects, when they plan these cities, they're building gardens on the roofs. So you can plant food and grow your own food on the roof of your building.
You know, China's so self-sustainable. There's a billion people there. They don't import food. They make their own food.
That's right. Which is again a very recent development for China.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Do that with a billion people, but when you do that, you got to eat bugs.
Well, we're
That's part
getting
of the
better,
program.
but we're getting better and better at figuring out ways to grow plants, for example, that don't need pesticides, that are much higher in protein and different nutrients.
Sure, but then you're getting weird because things are genetically
there's a
modified.
dark
Then
side.
Monsanto owns
There's a
them.
dark
and,
side.
You know, Monsanto's scary as fuck.
What's that? It's the thing when you say it's fine if you want to cross-pollinate 2 wheat strains, but when you take the gene from a jellyfish, put it in a strawberry so that my strawberry doesn't freeze when I'm shipping it across the country, that's a little weird, man. Or when you're you know, when all of a sudden my oranges are square because it's easier to pack them.
Well, have you seen all the WikiLeaks documents leading to genetically modified food? So they're trying to push it all across the world. They're trying to push it in the countries, and they're imposing sanctions on countries.
Well,
and
what they
threatening
do
countries.
also, what you can if you plant one field over here that's genetically modified and there's
Cross
another
pollinates,
field-
it flies in the air.
cross-pollinates,
Yeah, and then they sue those people, and those people have to either close up their farm or it becomes a fucking disaster.
I think you know, I'm a capitalist and all that, but and I think that we have to be very careful with how everything is becoming these conglomerates and how things are becoming so corporate. Look at radio. Every time I travel this country, you and I both travel this country, everything is so homogenous. We've paid a price. You people want efficiency, but why in the world, when I go to most cities, can I only eat at a corporate chain? Is there a why
Well, how
am I
about
surrounded by?
radio?
I'm surrounded by. I was going to say Clear
Yeah.
Channel. I'm surrounded by beige walls, whether it's Kmart. There's no continuum.
Yeah.
There's no like history. Nobody feels connected to anything. Everything around me is everybody's trying to sell me something I don't need, and it robs every city of its character. It's like the death of the American city. What happened to Main Street with the mom and pop shops? I want that.
Go to Ohio,
that's
it's still there.
But these cities used to all have it,
Yeah.
and I understand that
You have to go to
progress-
small places to get that.
Yeah,
when
I
you're
understand
dealing with
that-
large volume of people, small places like that become impractical.
It's an offshoot of globalism,
Yeah.
and it was as a price we had to pay. We'll probably swing back, but we pay a price
What do
for
you think?
efficiency and speed.
What do you think about all these people that believe that, you know, and if you read almost every ancient religion has some story of a great apocalypse or a great catastrophe, and almost every religion has some story about a previous existing society that was advanced and that was almost wiped off the face of the earth. You know, when you hear shit about all these animals dying and fish dying, this sounds like religious scripture. How fucking crazy would it be if we all really have been all through this before? If human beings have literally gotten to the point of where we are now, like this sophisticated, if we died off today, how much of this shit would be around in 10,000 years or so? How much would we be able to find and recognize anything that isn't steel or that isn't,
I think it's a great
stone.
question. I do think that what the answer may lie in somewhere in the area. If I were to answer that question, one I don't know, but I think that there is a human beings are still faced with the same problems as human beings. So whether or not I was living 3,000 years ago, the big questions that one has to wrestle with that answer the question of what am I doing here? Who am I really? What am I supposed to do? What does this all mean? Those are questions you can never run from. And so within that context, I think we'd still be trying to answer those questions. We'd still be trying to go beyond our biology.
Sure.
We'd still be trying to get more pleasure out of than pain. We'd still be trying to figure out how to keep our children alive with better food, better healthcare. So I think, but we'd be competing with resources and we'd still have wars. So I think in a way it makes sense that we'd keep repeating ourselves. This is the human experience.
But what I'm saying is, do you think that it's ever gotten to this point before? When you look at some of the structures that exist that are unexplained, that are many, many thousands of years old, especially like the pyramids.
Yeah.
You go, unexplained in the fact that they're not exactly sure how they put that all together. There's a lot of theories, and there's also old dynasty and new dynasty, and there's old kingdom and new kingdom. There's a lot of structures that they believe are far, far older than the traditionally thought, like the Pyramid of Giza or the Great Pyramid of any.
Well, I think what separates human beings from animals, as far as I know, is that we have imagination, and that we seem to be always moving toward the limits of our imagination.
Right, but what freaks me out is there's a bunch of shit that they can't figure out how it all got done. And one of them is dogs. Do you know, dogs are a great mystery. When you look into the DNA of dogs, it turns out that all of them descend from wolves. Right. They thought it was going to be a bunch of different wild canids and different. And
they're all from
fucking wolves.
Essentially domesticated wolves.
So we don't know how the fuck that was done thousands of years ago.
We do know that people have always bred their animals, whether they're horses or whatever.
Sure.
Even farm animals to eat. They've bred them
so long ago. It goes back so far that it literally predates society, and that's why it's squirrely. Because you're talking about 10,000, 15,000, maybe even deeper and deeper into the history of breeding dogs.
Yeah, and I think the answer maybe also is the fact that this world is way more much older than our experience.
We are probably much older. Human beings are probably much.
Recorded history is one thing, but real human history is another. And you also wonder evolution. I always think about that. What's interesting to me is if indeed there's a lot of science that we evolved from apes, or chimps, or whatever it might be. It's people say, well, we kind of seem to have stopped evolving physically then, if that's the case, didn't we?
No, we moved in a different direction. Look, the doubling of the human brain size is the biggest mystery in the entire fossil record, and that's what changed us from this beetle eating fucking freak monkey to human beings. Yeah. And whatever the fuck caused it, who knows?
Why is that? I wonder why.
McKenna believes it was mushrooms. Some people believe it was the throwing arm. Some people believe it was fish that we started eating. But that doesn't make sense to me because bears are stupid as fuck and they eat a lot of fish.
But it goes beyond that. I'm saying why chimps have always been chimps.
Right.
Human beings have continued to evolve at least in our recorded time. In that we do really amazing things.
I joke around about people being from monkeys and chimps, but the real lineage is there's a bunch of different primates that evolved next to each other. For some reason, we evolved in a far more sophisticated way than all the rest of them.
In the sense that we're always trying to go beyond that which we can measure, and we're always contemplating that which be. How would you ever measure, for example, the fact that a great Mozart or Bach sonata makes some people feel profoundly sad and overjoyed at the same time? Why do we even have that stuff? Yeah, it sounds good to our ears, but think about the genius of great jazz like Louis Armstrong.
I hate jazz.
Like, why in the world would that guy?
Like all jazz?
I'm just saying. I'm using it as an art form. Like,
it's okay.
Like, why in the world would we come up with these brass horns and planes?
Sure, yeah.
All those things that are sort of what we stay alive for. It's interesting. It's like, what are we supposed to be doing with that? What are we supposed to be doing with the fact that most religions, all religions, talk about, well, love each other. That's the most important thing. Love each other, and then, by the way, what do you do with that relationship? Well, you try to make the world better. What do you do when you come together as social animals? Why? And what is the point of that? That's the big question that we're always dealing with. That I think
it seems that there's no point. It seems that the point is to enjoy it and to be nice to people. That seems to be the point. The idea, if you're temporary, you're a temporary being, and all your descendants are temporary beings. We just keep evolving in a tide of ever-changing temporary beings. Then the only point is just be nice.
But then why? But then we just be. Then I guess
be nice, have fun, ride it out. Let's see what's next.
Is there anything? Is there
group
anything
of people
to be
that were
said, though,
affected by you in a positive way.
Do you think there's anything to be said though about going beyond that in the sense that are we supposed to evolve and continue to understand more and more until we become one with something?
Our lives are so short. It's like it's the same thing we talked about before.
But the human experience, what I'm saying is, we keep jumping on each other's shoulders. Is what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, sure.
So you know, even Newton said that. He said, I stood on the shoulder of giants. You guys all talk about me being, I invented calculus. Not bad, Isaac. Who said, by the way, his biggest accomplishment was lifelong celibacy, not calculus. He was like, my biggest accomplishment wasn't that I invented, you know, the concept of gravity and spatial relationships. It's that I was celibate my whole life.
Wow, he's retarded.
That's pretty cool.
Whoa.
Yeah, I was like, really?
Yeah, if one chick sucked his dick, it would have ruined everything.
Right. But
you have to be
the father of modern physics, you know, modern science. But he said, but
that's why I hate math so much.
We all stand on each other's shoulders. It seems that we are evolving in our understanding of more and more of how even animals think, and
of course,
you know,
yeah, we're certainly evolving.
So there must be a point to this evolution. I hope.
Well, I always have said that I think that we're probably becoming something through technology, and that human beings are probably just like a caterpillar that becomes a butterfly, but just doesn't know what it's doing while it's doing it. All our natural instincts towards materialism and greed and selfishness, and you know, all these monkey instincts that we have left over, perhaps working in a natural order to move us towards this ultimate goal,
like
of some sort of
becoming
technological
one with all the
invention.
technology we're making, for example.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Kurzweil believes. He believes that, you know, it's going to be some sort of an artificial technology, an artificial intelligence that we can download our consciousness into, and that you will exist forever in perpetuity in this, you know, artificial environment.
But how does? Yeah, there you go. That's a classic.
What does that
example.
mean? I mean, it's the Matrix. I mean, you're talking craziness. Not only that, you're talking about if you can duplicate your consciousness, you can duplicate it in an infinite amount of times, and it will exist not here in this physical space, but it will exist in some sort of cyber world where you will constantly be in like a replaying life.
Not only that,
an infinite number of them.
And not only that, we will ultimately and truly be connected, and our experience will be everybody else's experience.
We are now. It's just it's in a weird way, and I think the reason why it's set up in a weird way is to encourage competition. You know, the thing that bugs people the most, the things that is losing. You know, losing anything, losing a person, losing your job, losing in a fight, losing in a game. It's frustrating for us. We're designed for competition. Some people so much so that you beat them at pool and they get mad at you. You know, you ever been around that guy?
Yes,
you know, you beat him at pool.
But see, I like to ask the next question though. Like losing, defining that really, actually, I think in some ways isn't just losing your power. In a way, losing is to be left alone. In a way, to be the loser is to be the one. You're not special.
It's another form of
and
losing.
People leave you. They leave you.
Yes.
And so I think that's ultimately why people hate losing so much. It's that memory of feeling alone.
It's that, but there's also this strong desire for competition amongst most people. How many comics do you know that when they see someone else get something big, they actually get upset that it's not happening to them?
You're the only successful comic I've ever heard comics not talk bad about. You're the only
That's ridiculous.
One.
People have talked bad about me. Lots of people have.
Not really. Not comics.
Go talk to Mark Maron.
No. You don't hear comics say bad things about you. I've never. And I'm around. And the point I'm making is that you're right. I mean, for the most part, I'm saying that you're right. People, when somebody actually does well, if it's a comic, they get blasted
a lot of
by
times.
A lot of people.
Yeah, a lot of
sometimes
times.
Deserved, sometimes.
Well, especially when you're young and scrappy and you're all coming up in the same order. You know, like you're all like 22, 23, and one of these 22-year-old guys gets some radio show where he's the morning DJ guy, and like, oh fuck, you know, he's the morning DJ guy at KTLA now or whatever. You know what I mean? Right. Like, and then all of a sudden, dudes feel like that could have been them. Sure. You know, and then
what they have to understand also, by the way, is that this is not a linear process.
Right.
This world is made of a whole bunch of nonlinear luck and mathematics and all.
Well, you say that because you're a very experienced guy and you've gone through so many things and so many different projects. And so, I mean, you've gone through the tour de force of television. Mm-hmm. You did a sketch show in Mad TV. You've done family shows on those Warner Brothers networks, right?
Yeah, I've done everything.
You've done fucking everything. Cool, yeah. You did Sex in the City. Yeah. You know, you've done
Entourage.
you've done so many different things. You've really had had a broad like view of the whole entertainment scene that a lot of people just don't get.
Yeah.
They don't get that full thing.
Right.
So when you're young, especially, like all you know is I want to fucking make it. I got to make it. I got to pay my bills. You're fucking freaking out. Like, shit, he got it? Fuck, why didn't he get it?
I remember that, by the way. I remember being terrified I wasn't going to make it. I remember thinking that's not an option for me.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't an option not to be working. You know?
Well, all of us. I think anybody who actually became a comic, you had to deal with the fact that, man, if I put my eggs in this basket, this shit might turn out terrible.
Right.
I might just live in rotten eggs and nothing. It's terrifying. It's completely terrifying. But my point is that, like, you know, like in show business, like the whole idea of like pursuing it and like going after it, it is absolutely, of course, uncertain. Like, it has to be uncertain. It's uncertain because that's the only where like real
where adventure and creativity comes from.
Something, it blossoms out of that uncertainty. If you knew it was going to happen and you had it all plotted out, it would be boring as fuck when you got there.
It's boring for you and it's boring for them.
You would have to do drugs. You'd have to start doing coke.
I think that's why people, like, when they take a gig for the money, for example, like they go, well, you're going to give me $7 million to do a talk show, a game show. You pay a price for that.
Yes.
Man. You got to keep the uncertainty.
Dude, I paid a price for Fear Factor, for sure. I loved doing that show, and it was a lot of fun, and I loved making all that money, and I'm happy I did it. But, man, there was a lot of days that I didn't want to do that, and I thought, you know, this is hokey, or this is silly, or this is like, God, this is like, it became a job, which is nothing wrong with that. It's a respectable way to make a living. That's why I always say, well, don't make fun of whores. We're all whores in some ways. We've all whored before, is what I'm saying. Sure, but what my whole point about the whole competition thing, it's like, I think that it's all set up that way on purpose, and that like showbiz competition and, you know, stand-up comedy competition, even martial arts competition, like these guys when they start trash talking each other on the internet, you know how I look at it when I look at like two fighters who are about to trash talk each other? I look at it like birds that are squawking at each other. Like one bird is on the fence, and then the other bird like fucking flops its wings and gets close to it. It's like this natural thing that they're doing. Like they have to do this in order to motivate them to be great.
Right.
In order to push them all to the next level, you have to feel the jealousy.
Wasn't it Floyd Patterson who said, you know, I always wondered who Ali was talking to, and he said, I'm the greatest, and then I realized one day he was talking to himself.
Wow, yeah.
He said to Floyd, he goes, you know, I'm scared to death every time I step in that ring, but I get myself worked up, and by the time I'm in there, I believe what I'm saying to myself.
It's the saddest thing in the world that Muhammad Ali is the way he is now.
It's the greatest.
You know, and that, you know, it's Parkinson's, and he has trauma-related Parkinson's.
What's amazing also is that he doesn't hide it from the world. The guy holds the torch to the Olympics. He just gets up in front of everybody. Here's me, you know? It's
weird listening to Mike Tyson talk these days. Have you heard Mike Tyson talk?
I haven't.
He's got a reality show now.
Yeah, I haven't noticed.
He got interviewed.
What's his reality show on?
On Pigeons. But he got interviewed at this. There was a Showtime boxing match recently. The pay-per-view match between Miguel Cotto and Cotto Mayorga, and it was a good fight. And they interviewed Tyson. Cotto did. He stopped him in the last round. And they talked to Tyson about it. And Tyson, like, you know, it was like he was laboring to talk. You know, and I was listening to it. And I was like, wow, maybe he's just tired, and maybe they caught. Yeah, he might have been high as fuck. Yeah. That's true. Because if you catch me, I might look like I have brain damage. Yeah. Especially if I'm at a fight, you know, and I don't have to do commentary. God, I love going to fights when I don't have to do commentary. Because these guys, whenever we go to the UFC, Brian and Ari and Joey, these guys take pot cookies and get blitzkrieged. So they're sitting up. Last time was acid. So they're sitting up in the stands, having the fucking time of their life. I gotta come with you. Joey Diaz does the commentary, right? Joey Diaz is like in the middle of fights. He'll start just rants and raves about this happened and that happened.
Don't get your pineapples, BJ Penn.
So especially if somebody gets knocked out or somebody gets submitted, what the fuck did I tell you, dog? He'll get up and go crazy. But I don't get to see that anymore. I do, you know, from the commentary point.
When did you really truly feel comfortable calling a fight in the UFC? When did it really start to gel? Because it just comes out of you now.
You know, the first couple of times I was self-conscious about it. You know, it's weird. You're trying to do a good job, but you don't want to be. There's a lot of ego involved in commentary that's very unpleasant. Like you hear people talking too much about themselves or
you take yourself completely out of
what they would do. Well, I have to. First of all, I'm completely illegitimate. I mean, I'm a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, and I fought in some taekwondo and some kickboxing, but I've never fought any MMA fights at all. So I what am I going to say? I could do better than this. You know, I mean, it's silly. I'm completely objective about it, but it took a while for me to be comfortable with like how I should, you know, what I should talk about and what I shouldn't talk about, and when to talk and when not to talk, and you know, and how to like be as respectful as possible, but yet be as objective and analytical as possible about what's happening. You know, so You have to walk a fine line between critiquing fighters and criticizing them, or obsessing patterns that you see in movement and critiquing behavior and training regimens and shit like that. Sure. So it's tricky. It's tricky, but I always do it from a place of respect, and I always do it from a place of as objective as I'm capable.
Yeah, you're very good at doing it.
It's fun to do.
I think Goldie is a poet. That dude is just amazing.
Well, what a lot of people don't know is like they'll say, Goldie, fill, you got to fill here, got to fill here. They say that through our headsets. Wow. So Goldie will start just going off about this fucking arena that we're in that was built in 1812, and it's like, and he's off the top of his head,
he's
man.
Amazing.
And he just does it perfectly.
I've never heard that
1812.
Guy yeah, he's just.
He might have stumbled once in the 1,000 fights.
It's like he wrote those lines out, and they're just perfect.
Sometimes he doesn't say the correct thing when it comes to like the technique or something like that, but that's okay because I can correct him, and he's just trying to get things going. Like he's just trying to.
Just have, you know who is, by the way, I don't know if you've ever seen. You know who's the best improviser I've ever seen in my life, and a guy who can take a topic and do 30 minutes of stand up on it and do whatever. Is Adam Carolla.
Oh, yeah. Adam Carolla can ramble, bro. That's why he's so good as a podcast host. That guy, you give him a subject. Here's the thing, okay? I'm all for you having your coffee. And he'll just like have some fucking 20-minute rant about what's wrong with, like, he did something about twist ties, like, well, it was like twist ties, like how strong are these things? And they should be used, like, should cover up the soldiers in Iraq with twist ties.
That's what I mean. He's amazing at coming up with just like free form and like entire jokes. I said to him, he got off, I go, we did a movie together, and I go, we were on set, and I go, you know what? I said, I've decided you might be the best in the world at what you do. And he goes, what do you mean? And I said, I think you're the best improviser and the best guy I've ever seen at improv, the way you do your improv. I think you're the best in the world. He goes, oh, I don't know. I go, somebody's got to be the best. So you're getting the trophy. I'm giving it to you. So he goes like this. He goes, so apparently has a podcast next day. He goes, I know I like that guy Bryan Callen. He's a good guy. He told me I might be the best improviser in the world. And I thought, why not? So I got home and I looked at my wife and I was like, hey, how come I don't smell any pot roast? Why is my dick in your mouth, for Christ's sake? I'm the best guy in the world at improv. And he's like, recognize, honey. Bryan Callen said it, so it's true.
Yeah, he's a guy who's really found success with this whole podcast format.
He's also a great guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
He's a good guy.
He's an interesting dude. He's really into cars, man. He's got the dopest garage, man. Is he?
Very good boxer.
Did you ever box with him?
No, but I've heard guys who fight, like guys, he's actually a ringer. He'll get in a ring and
really?
Yeah, it was a real
I
fight.
believe it. He's good at everything. He's a great carpenter. He like fucking remodels his house and shit, builds additions on his own.
He's a real American.
Yeah, he is a real American.
Alec Baldwin, Brett Favre before he went crazy, and this guy might be my favorite.
Adam Carolla has the dopest garage, man. He's got like one of those garages. Yeah, but mine was built for a TV show. You got to pee? But Adam Carolla's garage is like he's got like a fucking Ferrari there. Like a classic BMW M3. He's got a Mustang back there. He's got a Lamborghini back there, I think. He's got like a classic Lamborghini. Yeah. He's just like really fucking into like machines and cars and shit.
What's going on with Kevin Smith? What's this talk on Twitter?
I don't know. He said he wanted to get together and do a podcast, and he said we should smoke pot and talk about news radio. I'm like, fuck yeah, I would love to. I'm in. Okay. So I messaged him, but when you get, and here's the thing with people say, how come you never message me back? Why did you never message me back? I'm not on Twitter all day. I try to go on and post things when I have time, but a lot of times I'm fucking busy. And when you have, like, I think now I'm up to 283,000. Bitch! What am I? Look, just because you don't have that many. Excuse me, 283,982. So almost 284,000. There's no way I can keep up with the replies. If you don't look at it for an hour, there's 1,700 replies. And so what do? Do you read them all? I can't. I don't have the time. It's impossible.
Just give me some of those people.
Listen, bitch, you got to earn them.
That would be cool if you could.
Listen,
just give
the shit my dad says. He doesn't have a podcast. How does that guy get so famous?
Wouldn't that be cool though if you could give him like I'll give you 50,000 people on Twitter.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden they'd be getting your goofy ass tweets. Going, what the fuck,
I got traded.
I hate cats. What's wrong with this guy?
Dude, this new iPad, by the way, fucking awesome. I think you'll use it more.
Why would I use it more? Because it has a camera?
The camera shit is so badass. Just fucking sitting there doing FaceTimes and shit like that. Or
I don't want people
he is a 13-year-old girl.
I know. He's a little girl. I don't want people looking at my face when I'm
we could transplant your brain into a 13-year-old lesbian's body so easily.
It's fun. The camera is badass.
You're loving it, right?
I'm loving it. It's but the other one was good, but the no camera thing just really made me never want to use it that much.
Really?
Yeah, because that was a
Didn't
big
bother
part.
me at all, man. I only use it for watching things. Like when I was getting tattooed, I used it to watch TV shows,
Right.
and I use it for reading books.
Yeah.
I don't use it for anything else.
What's that?
iPad?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have one. I was gonna get the Airbook because I travel, but do I need an iPad?
Nah.
What's an Airbook?
You don't need one. That's the little MacBook, the little tiny one.
Airbook.
Real
Because I
thin one.
travel, I'd say light. I can just.
What are you, a
put it-
pussy, bro? I get a 17-incher and I carry that shit over my shoulder.
dude,
I don't even bother putting the backpack on, dude. I do squats. I do kettlebells on a regular, son. Step.
I remember one time you said to a bus full of fighters. I don't remember if it was like back in the UFC. Literally, when Randy Couture fought Vitor Belfort, it was like back in those days, like 20. You know, we were in Tennessee or Baton Rouge or something.
Right.
And I remember walking to the venue. Remember that? Like how ghetto it was back in the day. Like just. And Randy, we were actually anyway, but you go. They were talking about training techniques, and you were like, "I like to get into horse dance and put my balls inside my body and read Nietzsche." And I think Emmanuel Stewart was there. Like, people like, everybody's like, all these fighters, no sense of humor. They all looked at you like this. They're like, what is he saying? What is he saying? Because you weren't really that famous yet. You were doing news. You're like, I like to get in the horse dance, push my balls in my body, and read Nietzsche. It's a good thing. Everybody's like, is he fucking serious? Because you were kind of squatting strong.
They didn't laugh at me at all.
But I
got
dying.
into the squat position too. I got into that horse dance.
I was fucking dying.
Yeah, there's no room for humor in those early UFCs.
No, man, that was just
And I was
shit.
also the post-fight interviewer. I wasn't a commentator, so no one got to see my sense of humor.
I know.
At
I remember
all.
when we were with Tank and we were all those guys, and you were just like, be careful. Don't be a jackass around Tank. I don't know what he might do.
Tank will implode your skull.
He'll just beat you up.
Yeah, just beat your ass.
Because you're like, Brian, don't be like, hey, Tank, like, let me tweak your nose.
Yeah,
You're like,
bad news. Tank will put you to sleep.
We remember he'll
He'll put you to sleep. Go to jail like normal.
kill you. He'll kill you.
He might. It will definitely change the way you look at the world.
I remember shaking his hand, and it felt. I've never felt a hand that strong. He was just a brick.
And how about thinking about dudes like we were talking about how badass Mayhem is? You know how you were fucking around with Mayhem,
yeah.
And I said, well, I want to show you a video of Husamar Palhara submitting Mayhem. Just think that someone can do that to a guy as good as Mayhem, as good and as strong as Mayhem is.
Crazy.
And you see a guy. There's just levels
There's
upon levels
yeah.
upon levels.
I'm a baboon. That guy's a silverback. That's how it is. You know. I'm a Saluki.
Imagine the first dude that fucking stumbled across gorillas, because that did happen, by the way. As far as Western humans, as far as white people.
That's right.
Gorillas were a myth until like the 1800s, right?
In Indonesia, a guy had woke a male orangutan up. Woke him up, and the thing flipped out and grabbed him by the hair. A guy had kind of long hair, thick Indonesian, grabbed him by the hair and just yank and scalped him. They took just ripped the base of and scalped him like he freaked out like pulled his hair off and then ran off into the trees.
Oh my God! So he had no scalp.
That's right.
So what'd they do? They have to like skin graft his ass onto his head?
You're fucked. In Indonesia?
some
I'm not
needles
sure,
going
but
on.
They probably just die of staph infection.
back in the day, it was like, I think in
Crazy
80
thing is gorillas are the biggest, but they don't even eat meat. They're all vegetarian.
That's right. It's called genetics, my friend.
I know,
If you ever
but
watch
it's
them,
so
go to the San
strange.
Diego Zoo and watch those gorillas. You can stand right next to them because it's plexiglass. Watch them wrestle. All they do when they're little is wrestle. All they do is roll around, and they have arm drags, duck unders. I'm not kidding.
Really?
Headlocks, guillotines. I swear to God, they put you in their guard. I swear. So I'm telling you that the man who invented jiu-jitsu was Helion Gracie.
Helio. Well, sort of. I mean, there was the Japanese.
I wouldn't be surprised,
of
course. But he after he comes
refined it. Helio and Carlos.
I wouldn't be surprised if one day they were watching gorillas roll. Watch them play. They are the perfect wrestlers. They're so efficient for wrestling. They're so efficient.
It's just so weird that they're so big and that they eat plants.
Why? Because a silverback is not 6 feet tall, maybe 6 feet tall, and weighs 600 pounds. Fat free, ladies and gentlemen. No fat on his body.
Giant fucking monstrous arms. But what is all that for? Is it all just to keep things from fucking with it? It must be.
I don't know, man. It's just
because they don't kill anybody.
They don't really swing through trees. And they're not really aggressive.
They have little dicks.
Yep, and they have little dicks. I have a bigger dick than a 600-pound gorilla.
Shazam, son.
There you go.
So,
but think about that though. 600 pounds.
That's a lot of weight.
And then there's the polar bear.
Yeah.
Which would eat a gorilla.
Yeah, what the fuck? Do you think a polar bear could eat a gorilla?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, do I think so? I don't know.
Have they ever done that?
Aren't they 15 to 16 to 1,700 pounds? Is that what a polar bear is?
Polar bears are pretty goddamn big.
Yeah, they stand 10 feet or higher. They're bigger than a basketball. Go up to a basketball hoop, try to touch the rim, and they're bigger than that when they stand on their hind legs. Yeah, they take down things like elk with their mouths. Yeah,
What's
it
the
would kill
Eat whales. You ever see them eat pilot whales through the ice?
I have no doubt.
Do polar bears have big penises?
I don't know.
No, it's a good question.
But they'll kick the shit out of
Solid
a gorilla.
question, Brian. Solid question.
Good question, Brian. Thank you. Hold that question for a second. We'll put that on the wall.
Yeah, polar bears are scary as fuck if you're in Alaska. If you see one, you better run, bitch, because they'll eat you.
Carnivore, biggest land carnivore.
It actively targets human beings
And
on
yes,
a regular basis.
they will eat a human being. They will make a beeline for you.
There's a terrifying story that I read once about these guys that were in a boat, and the boat hit an iceberg, and the boat started to sink. So they sent out a distress signal, and they climbed off the boat onto an ice shelf. Did you hear the story?
Yeah, I know all about it.
There's a few researchers. I forget the number, but there was more than 3.
It's a terrible story.
And this polar bear saw them and kept diving off one ice sculpture to the next, getting closer and closer, sizing them up, until finally he was on the one ice sculpture.
And they were jumping around.
Yeah, they were screaming and yelling. The polar bear didn't give a fuck. He was like,
Make yourself hard to swallow.
I'm to eat some of you bitches. And he came over, and he was on the ice sculpture, the ice island right next to them, jumped in the water, got on their side, walked calmly up to the first guy he could get a hold of. They scrambled. Everybody stumbled over each other trying to get out of the way. Grabs a guy, kills him right there instantly, grabs his limp body, jumps off the ice island into the water, swims over to the other one, and just starts eating him right in front of them.
Yep.
And so he ate that one guy, and then help came. And help came when the next boat came, when the this distress signal was answered. By the time they got there, this guy was just rib cage popping out of his fucking his jacket.
Yeah, I don't want to. I'm not really interested in dying that way. Thank you. Because you're not doing anything. That's a bear. Good luck. And a polar bear.
Polar bears and fucking oceans.
But you know what they do? They grab you by the neck, and they just shake a couple times, I guess.
Sometimes they just start eating you.
They start eating you from the legs up, like that guy from Grizzly Bear.
Yeah, 7-minute audio tape.
That's a good time.
There
go my legs. Oh, those are my feet.
I know.
Those are my
won't
feet.
release that shit.
Those are my calves.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
That's my femur bone.
Eating
my
your
femur bone.
Thigh. Eating, just taking chunks out of your thigh. Ruthlessly.
You ever see that YouTube video of the woman got too close to the polar bear's cage?
Oh yeah, and it breaks her leg.
Yep, brought her in.
Yeah.
Hannah, sucker.
Yeah, they're mean, man.
They're also fast.
Well, they have to be. They're living in fucking the frozen north. What a crazy place to live. They're like the cleanup agents of the frozen north.
You can't put a baby polar bear or even a smaller polar bear, like an adolescent polar bear, into a cage with a big polar bear.
Or it'll eat it?
Guess what? It'll eat it.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Jack.
Females will keep their cubs. They'll run away from a male. A male will chase a female and her cubs for 2 days trying to eat those cubs.
Jesus fucking
So
Christ.
they'll follow a female running and keeping her cubs going to get away from a male who sees them and says, I want to eat your babies. I want to eat your babies.
Fuck.
So she goes, guys, we got to run. Let's run now. But why is he still chasing us? I'm tired, Mommy. Shut up. That's the school of hard knocks, by the way.
Yeah, you think? And and they'll eat both fucking cubs too. They won't just eat one and let the other one free. No, he's going to kill that one and run after the next one.
The other one is,
Yeah, they have to store up. They have to store up
Mom's
fat.
not doing a thing. She's got to just go,
Randy Couture asked me to go hunting with him. I'm going to go hunting with Randy Couture.
That's so
And we were going to go bear hunting. But I'm like, I don't want to eat a bear, man.
Yeah,
I don't want to eat a bear, and I couldn't do it anyway. I had to cancel some stand-up dates, so we're trying to figure out another day to do it. But I'm like, let's kill something that I can eat.
black bear or grizzly bear?
It's a black bear. You can eat
black bear. It's oily meat.
It tastes like shit, though, right?
They say it's really good. It's oily.
Really?
Yeah.
What does that mean, oily meat?
They say it's a very thick.
That's what I call my
thick and
dick.
full of oil.
Can you imagine going gay
Oily
bear
meat.
hunting with Randy?
There's-
Gay bear hunting?
Like, let's find some bears.
Let's find some
You find out that that's
jean jackets on.
Yeah, you got your hunting gear. And you just end
beards.
up in like the city. You're like, what are we doing, dude? Why are we
Find it.
cruising
This
slowly?
guy's dressed like Bob Seger. Let's take him down.
Dude, why do you smell like cologne? And why are you wearing eyeliner? Randy? This is so weird. And why am I?
Why am I sucking your dick?
Yeah,
Right.
Randy Couture is the manliest man ever.
Yes,
he's just all into
he's
hunting
ultimately
with
my favorite
bows and
American.
running through the woods. He was doing the eco challenge when he stopped fighting for a while.
Stud.
Just running through the fucking forest, the Pacific coast.
He doesn't need it. He doesn't need a bow and arrow or anything else. He just does it. He just runs
He's a
them down.
bad motherfucker. But he's a big hunter. He loves hunting. So he's going to take me somewhere. We're going to go. There's a hunting TV show they do it with.
Whenever I'm around, I've been around Randy Couture a couple times, and I whenever I'm around a guy like that, I always feel a combination of just awe and just I feel a little bad about myself.
Well, I always feel like Jesus. I always say people say, "Why don't you fight MMA?" First of all, because I don't want to, and two, because I'm old. And then like, and Randy Couture is 5 years older than me. 5 years.
Yeah, don't be a pussy, Joe.
There has never been combat athletes into their late 40s before.
Ever.
Never. You never saw that. You never saw a 48-year-old guy.
It's a combination of a lot of things.
A lot of it's genetics too,
Yeah.
because the guy's never injured, which is crazy. You think about all these different guys that cancel their camps.
Sports science did a thing where he's able to take the VO, like his VO max is much higher, like he's able to assimilate oxygen into his muscles much better than most people.
Well, it makes sense. He's a lifelong athlete, and he was always known, even in the early days of competing, of just breaking guys' wills. I mean, that's what he did to Vitor Belfort. He just imposed his will on Vitor and broke him.
Well, that's
he
one
fucked
thing I've always
Vitor
noticed.
up for a long time.
He's relentless. He'll go for the double leg, then a single leg, then
he beats you up against the cage too. This Machida fight in Toronto is very interesting because he really firmly believes that Machida fights on the outside, but you can grab a hold of him, and when you grab a hold of him, Randy thinks he's just going to pin him up against the cage and beat the shit out of him.
Randy Couture is fighting.
He's fighting Machida, bro.
I didn't know that.
Meanwhile, he's doing like the Expendables 2. He's doing movies. He's a crazy fuck, dude. And then he's trying to get hunting trips in. Come on, let's go kill a bear. You're like, whoa, dude.
What a stud. I'm such a girl.
It's good to be around those guys. It's good to know that there's levels of manliness out there.
Well,
it's good to know
that's why sports for a young man are very important. I don't care what it is, because it teaches you how tough you're not.
How tough you're not.
Not just how tough you are, but also how tough you're not. And you need to know both.
And you need to know what other people are willing to go through, the kind of pain that some people are willing to go through. You got to watch a real live strength and conditioning program. You tell me you want to be an MMA fighter? Okay, go to the gym with Sean Shirk. Just watch him do that once.
First of all,
watch him fucking.
I don't need to, because I was 17 and I went to Dan Gable's intensive wrestling camp with the Hawkeyes, and I remember limping for 2 weeks. I limped.
Yeah.
Wake you up at 5 in the morning and you run sprints for an hour, and then you do live wrestling. And that's why I didn't want to wrestle in college, because I went, if this is college athletics, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And what happened was I'd smell a mat and my back would start to hurt. I got a psychosomatic injury. All right, my body was like, don't do that. I limped. The only time in my life I kept looking at my plane ticket, and I was going to fake an injury so I could go home.
High school wrestling will make a fucking man out of you. I'll tell you that.
They closed that camp down. Because you had to graduate, and like a third of the camp would drop out in his intensive. And literally they closed it down, I believe, the next year or the year after that.
Well, they also were really encouraging people to lose a tremendous amount of weight, which was terrifying and really fucking terrible for your young body. When you're 14, 15 years old, and you're in high school, and you're coach, and you're already lean, and they're telling you to lose 10 pounds of water and dehydrate, and you had to wrestle that day too. It's not like the UFC. I did it too.
It was awful.
I did it for Taekwondo tournaments too. It's terrible. My friend did it his whole high school career, and he's like really short, where everyone else in his family is tall. He's 5'6", and everyone else in his family is like 6 foot, 6'2".
Starving yourself.
Yeah, he starved himself all through high school, through every fucking season.
And college is worse, man.
Yeah, and he went in the off season. He went to camps, and he was really trying to make it as a wrestler.
Boxers don't lose as much weight, do they? Because they got to go 12 rounds.
You also have to take head blows. Right. It's much more dangerous when you're taking head blows. Yeah, that's when people get real serious brain damage. Like Gerald McClellan is a perfect example of that. He's a guy who used to lose a lot of weight to make his division. I think he was light heavyweight. He was a big guy, and he would dehydrate himself really bad, and didn't go about it the right way. And I don't know if they used IVs back in those days to rehydrate. Now they're pretty sophisticated about it. They always give guys bags of IV. Like some guys will take 6, 7, 8 bags.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they have to rehydrate, and they piss like crazy. But they feel much better, much quicker, and they gain a tremendous amount of weight in 24-hour period. Like there's a guy, Gleison Tebow, fights in the UFC. I don't know how he loses the weight. I don't know what he does, but this motherfucker fights at 155, and he looks like he's like 190. He's fucking huge.
Well, it's like what's the guy's name? Anthony Johnson.
Yeah,
he walks at 215.
Yeah, he's huge. 215.
I did a movie with him. He walked around.
He's fighting 170 again.
He fought 170. When I was doing a movie with him in Pittsburgh, and he walked around with these shoulders. I was like, this dude, and he's I said, how much do you weigh? He goes 215. I go, how are you going to get out to 170? He's like, I'll make it. No problem. got it down to a science. I was like, all right.
I don't know how the fuck
his head's
they do
that
it.
big.
He's enormous.
His bones.
Yeah, he's a super athlete. That guy is fucking
That's a guy,
powerful.
when you stand around, you feel like just such a wimp. You just,
yeah, and he's an interesting guy too because he's a wrestler, but he's really been working primarily on his striking, you know, and he's knocking a lot of guys out. That was a big victory for Koscheck when Koscheck beat him. I think a lot of that guy's problem is that he gets really depleted making that 170. I think he'd be better served at 185. I think a lot of guys would.
Of course.
I think a lot of guys lose too much weight, and I think over the long course of a career, it's very dangerous. It's very unhealthy.
I don't know if you're allowed to say, but is there going to be a GSP Anderson Silva fight?
They want to do that, but what GSP has to get through Jake Shields, which is no fucking cakewalk. Jake Shields is dangerous as fuck, and he's a winner, and his jiu-jitsu is top notch. Jake Shields can submit anybody.
Sure, but the GSP has proved that he is still far and away
he's a bad motherfucker, no doubt about it. But you can't discount Jake Shields. GSP's never fought Jake Shields. I'm telling you, Jake Shields. Look, he might be at GSP might be able to keep the fight on his feet, and if he does, GSP is more than likely gonna be far better on his feet. He's got way better striking, way better hands, way better kicks than Jake. Jake is just all about closing the distance, getting a hold of you, and drag you to the ground. And if he can't do that, yeah, he's in some trouble. He's gonna get boxed up. But if he can do that, it becomes very interesting. It becomes very interesting because Jake Shields has competed at the very highest levels of the game in grappling and submitted guys, in fact, in Abu Dhabi that submitted GSP. His level of jiu-jitsu is quite a bit higher. But George is so smart and he's so defensively intelligent. And he's never been submitted in MMA before. No. He's at least not in the UFC.
He's also punching in the face.
Yeah, and elbowing you. And he's strong as fuck, and his wrestling's outstanding too.
Yeah, they say, I've talked to guys who train with him, and they say that he's really, really strong. He's got superhuman
Well, he's got great strength, and he's also like really smart, and he does things correctly, and he's like super driven. Like I told you, we worked on that turning sidekick thing. He talked to me afterwards like, Joe, I practiced it 1,000 times. I was on the set. They were like, this guy's crazy. I'm kicking the bag. I'm telling you, man, I'm gonna get it. Like he was like obsessed with it. Like if you show him a technique, he'll go over and go over. And next thing you do it, he'll probably be doing it better than you, who taught him.
You know what's funny about that is like you see these people who are great and they do these things and you think it's magic. They just work harder than everybody else.
Obsession and repetition. Yep. And you know the same desire that gets you far in life with that can also fuck you up if you get addicted to EverQuest. You know, it's the same sort of obsession can wind you up in a ditch if it becomes something that's not productive. Like for me, I have to, and I know you're probably the same way. I have to manage my addictions. I have to like be real careful and keep an eye on.
I'm not as intense as you are that way. You've always been really, really obsessive.
Well, it's a problem. It's like it's not even a discipline. It's more of an obsession. I'm disciplined, kinda. I mean, I get things done. I'm disciplined, but what I really am is driven. Yeah, there's a big difference. If I find something out, like I'm not good at doing things I don't want to do. You know, like I'm not good at taking out the garbage. I'm not good at remembering to do errands. Things that I'm supposed to do, I'm not good at. But if there's something I'm excited about, if there's something that's motivated about, then I become obsessed with it, and then I become driven to get good at whatever the fuck this thing is. So it's not even like a discipline thing. It's almost like I just know how to turn on the crazy switch.
Yeah.
You know?
You do. You're really, really good at that.
But you got to manage that shit, man. There's a lot of people that don't. They get into gambling and then they become fucking crazy with blackjack or poker.
I've always been really grateful that I didn't have the kind of wiring that was predisposed to the kind of negative obsessions like that. Like
well, you're self-deprecating enough to the point where you don't have to constantly be the best guy in the room. You know, you don't. You can have a good time no matter what.
No, I've always enjoyed my friends' successes. I've always found it more inspiring than threatening. I just think it's like intelligence. It's like trying to compartmentalize anything, you know.
Well, that's why you're a healthy dude too. That's why you're.
But it's like courage. You know, some people say, "Well, I'm a coward." Well, you're a coward. Maybe you wouldn't get up on stage and do stand up, but you'd fight 6 guys in a bar. And intelligence or talent, it's all the same stuff. You're good at. You know, some people you just have to find what you're good at.
Find your shit.
What's your role? It might be to support talented people. It might be to be the one on stage. It might be the one who comes up with the microphone that you use.
Right. There's club owners. There's managers. There's agents. There's comics. There's
if you have
writers,
children, I think your job is to try to nudge that child in the direction of what he's supposed to do anyway.
Yeah.
Whatever his primal impulses are, you know.
You contemplate. I mean, you have kids now. Are you actively thinking about that? Or your daughter's the same age as my daughter.
Yeah, and what I try to do with my daughter is provide 2 things. One is love, unconditional love, so she's not messed up. But I also believe that a large part of my job is to stand out of the way, not to be a suppressive, overwhelming personality for her.
Yeah.
I don't want to be too much of an influence. And the reason I don't want is I want her to ultimately, I think a great deal comes from having to be independent and also feeling free enough and not ashamed of whatever it is you are.
Right.
And so much of my childhood, and it's not nobody's fault, but so much of my childhood is, when I think back on it, even my young adult years, is full of kind of what I would describe as shame. I mean, described certainly as confusion, but also shame. Just also, God, I feel so different than most people. I'm a fuck up, and I got to get my shit together. Well, no, I didn't. I actually had to just go deeper into that. And so, you know.
Well, to be a performer, yes, but if you were a car salesman, yeah, you would have had a problem.
Sure, but I'm saying, yeah, you know.
You know what I mean? It's like we're lucky that this avenue exists.
Absolutely. And I'm just saying you got to find whatever your avenue is.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, people say, well, everybody has a path. I don't know about that. But your job as a young adult or as a child is to try
Maybe
to
everybody
find that.
could have a path. It's not that everybody does. Maybe that everybody could.
Yeah, but you said something really profound I've been thinking about a lot lately that I thought was really cool. You said it's one thing to be really accomplished, and you've accomplished things, and, you know, we can go through all the stuff, but the one thing you said that you're the most proud of is accomplishing your peace of mind. And that is a very separate endeavor from trying to make money and trying to make a name for yourself, trying to be significant, trying to be original, but actually getting to a point where you have peace of mind, I think, is equally as important as any
It's more important than anything.
It is.
I'm happier now than I've ever been at any point in my life, and I'm also nicer to people now than at any point ever in my own life, and more conscious about like biological maintenance, making sure I work out on a regular basis, making sure I'm healthy. All those things together with my like,
you've
figured out a
genuinely
way.
changed in some ways your personality in a way. I mean, you've changed. You've actually made fundamental changes in how you relate to other human beings. I've seen that in you.
A lot of that is psychedelics and the tank. The tank.
Whatever it is, it's a combination.
You did the
of
tank
things.
recently.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Tell me about this. We'll end with this because we've been talking for a long time. But tell me what your experience was like.
I got into the salt water, and it was really dark, and I just
By the way, for people who don't know, this is a sensory deprivation tank we're talking about.
Yeah, and I thought two things. I thought one is I was going to go restless, and I thought the other thing I was going to get cold. And then I thought I was going to sink and all that. And in fact, I started to just focus on my breath, and sort of, it was very easy for me to kind of disappear for real.
Yeah.
And I think I stayed in there for 2 hours, but I could have stayed in there way longer.
Yeah.
Way longer. People say, he said, I think the guy said, 15 minutes, and you might be in there for an hour, but it might be hard. For me, I could have just stayed in there.
It's an amazing environment, isn't it?
Yeah.
You need to get one of those.
I think we all need that.
Well, you live in the area, so you can go.
Yeah.
You can go to that place all the time. But man, having one in your house is this shit.
How often do you change that water? You don't have to.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
It's only me that goes in it, and there's 800 pounds of salt. Nothing can live in there.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's like it's
like
so
the Dead
dense.
Sea.
Yeah, it is. It's just like that. It's the most valuable program ever, or the valuable tool ever for reprogramming your mind, for looking at yourself in a truly objective way, and to be untethered rather from your life, untethered from your personal experiences, and able to look at them. Literally, when you're inside that tank, it feels like you're not there. It feels like time has essentially stopped. You're not getting any input. It might be going on without you, all rambling free in the world, but in your life, your life is all about how you relate to everything that you see in your environment. So having a chance to be out of your environment, the only opportunity that you have in the world, that's the only environment on the planet like that, where you can go and separate yourself literally from your life.
So watch yourself.
Yeah. If you don't know what we're talking about a sensory deprivation tank, which was created by a psychedelic pioneer from the 50s named John Lilly, who was this brilliant scientist who was incredibly eccentric. And one of the things he wanted to figure out was how to detach himself from his physical inputs of sound and feeling and seeing things, and how to figure out how to get the mind literally away from any input of the body. He realized that life is very distracting, and that conversations that you're having. If there's a bus driving by right next to you, it's hard to have that conversation. The bus is distracting. Input is distracting. And when you are in the tank, you are literally dealing with no input. You have no hearing because your ears are underwater, and it's a big, heavy door that's shut, and it's pretty soundproof. You have no seeing because you're in total blackness, complete darkness. You don't feel anything because the water's the same temperature as your skin, and the water has 800 pounds of salt in it, so you're completely buoyant. And it's the most amazing environment, man.
It goes into that really. What was that? That I think, therefore I am, right? Descartes' notion. So, but that's always been disputed in the sense that because you can imagine it, doesn't mean indeed that it's actually there.
Well, then becomes the question
what
is the imagination? This is the real question: is what is the imagination? And are thoughts really non-local? And are you really just a biological antenna that picks up entropy in the air, that picks up creativity and ideas and things, and these are literally woven into the fabric of time all around us.
You know what that great mathematician who won the Fields Medal said, right? He refused the Fields Medal, which is a $1 million prize, I believe, and it's like the Nobel Prize for mathematics. They couldn't find him. Found him in Siberia a year later, and he goes, "Why are you giving me the prize? You should be giving the equation a prize. I just have antenna. I'm wired a certain way." And I was able to channel the answer. I think it was a 350-page answer. They've been looking at even the problem had been conjectured in 1806, and they were trying to the actual problem. And then he came up with the answer, and all these mathematicians this guy actually figured it out after 300 years, and he's just incredible, brilliant. And he goes, yeah, but what are you're giving the prize to the radio? You should be giving it to the music.
They all say that. Every artist says that. Every great writer says that. They tune into the muse.
I love that. That's what makes me believe in any kind of God or whatever you want to call it. A higher benevolent force of some kind, or at least something of beauty. I don't know.
Yeah. What was my point?
What is imagination? What is thought?
Yeah, thank you. My point was, the idea of imagination is very strange because you have this idea, you have this thing that comes in your mind. Wait a minute, if I do this and combine it with that, holy shit! I just made a new invention. This is gonna revolutionize. What you've done is, with this thing in the ether, you have pulled it out of that, and now it manifests itself in a physical form and alters human life.
It's incredible.
It changes life. All the things that people have invented, they had to initially think up, whether it's the car or whether it's computers, or this had to be a thought in someone's mind, a creative idea, or a conglomeration of other ideas that have existed before, that it's a combinatory thing, and they combine it and make some new creative thing. But whatever the imagination is, it eventually manifests itself as an actual thing. Right. So but we don't look at that. For some reason or other, it's frivolous.
Imagination is also way more important than what you consider intelligence or amassing information. Imagination is what moves history forward. Gutenberg,
innovation,
Gutenberg, when he came up with the printing press, even Freud, when he came up with the concept that you could figure out how the human mind works, Einstein's theory of relativity, Newton's, calculus. These guys who were these seminal thinkers who came up with even Karl Marx, for that matter. I'm not a communist, but these guys who came up with these sort of seminal concepts of, how to restructure our society, how to restructure our biology, how to restructure our minds, how to look at our minds, all those things
from the imagination.
It all came from imagination, and we leapt forward. In some ways, not in a good way. In some ways, we came up with the atomic bomb.
Well, yeah, I mean,
how to split the atom. But
it's all the same thing, right? It's all people in whatever branch of study that they choose to pursue. They create things.
That's right.
And it becomes an actual physical thing. Well, what is the imagination that's making that happen? Is it like a life form?
And what's the point?
Yes.
And also, what's the point?
Is it the diagram, the map of the universe that we're supposed to follow?
We brought this podcast full circle because we started with that question and we end with that question.
Who knows?
Better to have imagination, kids.
This is our message, folks. Just be fucking nice to people. If we all were cool, if everybody was like the people in this room right now, if the whole world was made up of us and we just ran into us everywhere, I mean, that's so egocentric and ridiculous to say, but the mindset of what I'm talking about, just be cool to people. Just be nice.
You know what the problem is? Sometimes
competition is the problem.
It's not only that. Sometimes
Jealousy.
Somebody has an idea that they think is better for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, example, the board, certain people in Kansas say, let's start teaching intelligent design and not evolution,
right.
And we're going to teach your child that because it's better for his soul. And all of a sudden, you go, wait a minute, you're trying to be nice to me, but I don't want that kind of nice.
Yeah, so, that's the wrong kind of nice. Yeah. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people not fucking with other people's lives.
Don't try to control other people. Yeah. Worry about yourself.
There's just so many of us. There's so many of us. It's hard to get this all across. But I firmly believe that we right now are more advanced, more in tune, more tuned in than any other generation that's ever been before. And a lot of it is because of stuff like this. A lot of it is because of the podcasts, internet, things you can read, the access to information, all these things. We're communicating in a way with Twitter and with Facebook that no one's ever done before.
I think we're connected the way we've never been before.
Yeah.
In real time.
Yeah. These things that we're all pushing together. It's a fascinating time, and I think human beings culturally are evolving at an incredible pace. At an incredible pace, rather.
Exponential in a way. Yeah, technology certainly is. So
yeah, that's the nuttiest thing about all this 2012 nonsense is fuck, everything's pointing towards that being real. Everything's pointing towards all these fucking events happening and people changing and technology accelerated at an incredible pace. And we talked about earlier about the center of every galaxy being a black hole. We were talking about that. Well, that's what they're trying to do at the Large Hadron Collider. They're making black holes. So if the center of every galaxy is a black hole and inside that black hole is a universe and then they're making universes,
I don't think that's a
what
good
they're
idea.
doing. Like, what the
Somebody
fuck?
put the brakes on that.
We are butterflies, and we are on our way to being the next thing. You know, there was a caterpillar that became a butterfly, and that is the human being.
If you want an actually great lecture on that, it's called Homo Evolutus, and it's by Juan Enriquez. And go to TED.com, and Juan Enriquez will take you through a lecture called Homo Evolutus, and he talks about how we're coming out with, for example, eyes that right now can see shadow and light, but they're going to pretty much soon be able to see underwater and in the dark for a mile away.
And eventually,
ears that can hear a mile away.
Clothes.
All that stuff, and we're going to start to become part machine as we come up with biocompatible components way faster than we're going to ever evolve into the whatever else we're supposed to biologically.
I know people already that have artificial hips. I know a couple people.
I need one, dude. My hip starts clicking now.
Your hips are fucked up?
My hip on this side really hurts sometimes when I move the wrong way.
Try being a top every now and then.
Hey now!
And on that
note,
Bryan Callen, you're the greatest. Thank you very much for being on the podcast again.
Yeah,
always the most fascinating, intriguing, in-depth conversations, head-spinning shit. I'm going to have to go back and review it because there was a lot of stuff that we talked about that I'm like, wow, I really need to consider this.
And I apologize for any inaccuracies. It is the internet. We just start talking.
We just start
always an honor, always a pleasure.
Please, you're
Joe
the best,
Rogan,
man.
Bryan.
And people can follow Bryan on Twitter. It's BryanCallen. Follow him on Twitter and follow Redban, please.
And by the way, I'm doing the Palms. I'm doing the Palms stand up this weekend.
Oh, this
Thursday,
weekend in
Friday,
Vegas.
Saturday in Vegas.
Seriously, he's one of the funniest, most unique human beings on the planet. He's responsible for one of the three funniest things I've ever seen in my life. The gay jiu-jitsu sketch that you did in a hotel room in Vegas. Between that and Joey Diaz showing his balls and Duncan Trussell's new video.
It's so good, isn't it?
It's so good.
I haven't seen it.
It's Duncan and his girlfriend Natasha. No one's seen it yet. You can only watch it on his computer. It hasn't been released yet. When it does get released, I made a video on my iPhone talking about how great it is. Like, you people are gonna freak. It's gonna get like 1 million hits in the first week.
It's fucking great.
Fucking hilarious.
He's hilarious.
Yeah.
This is his thing. His greatest accomplishment. It's
pretty
genius. It's Duncan in a nutshell and Natasha in a nutshell together.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. This weekend, Gotham sold out. Next weekend, there's a few tickets left for the Moore Theater in Seattle, but that's going fast too. And then we're in Portland the week after that at Helium in Portland. It's all on JoeRogan.net. And this Wednesday, we are at Sal's Comedy Hole.
Got some funny fucking people on there,
Who's
too.
on?
We got Steve Renazizi, Freddie Lockhart, Doug Benson, and Brett Ernst.
Yeah, it's a good lineup, ladies and gentlemen, so you don't want to miss that shit. And Sal's Comedy Hole is only like 80 or 90 people, and we do it pretty much every Wednesday. Every Wednesday that I'm in town, we fuck around, we come up with new material, we have fun. It's a great environment. You're gonna see a lot of cool comics.
It's like a VIP show right now. Like, these 80 people are getting a crazy show.
Yeah, I mean, Sarah Silverman did it last week. We had Doug Benson,
Eliza Schlesinger.
Yeah. We always have like top-notch guys come down and fuck around, and it's like a really good environment. It's a really fun place. You doing anything Wednesday? Bryan Callen's on the show, ladies and gentlemen.
I'll actually be in. I have to do Brea at 8 o'clock.
Oh, fuck.
What
time will you be done?
What time?
What time's your set? Are you closing? You're closing.
Yeah, I think I'm closing.
Oh, okay, you won't be done in time. All right, yeah, we start at 9, right?
Well, any Wednesday, we do it every Wednesday.
8. We start at 8
o'clock.
All right, 8 p.m. South Comedy Hall.
I didn't know you did that. I want to come.
Yeah, you're coming. You're coming. Yeah. It's the greatest. It's the new hangout. It's the new greatest place to fuck around for stand-up. Everyone super supportive. Everyone that works there cool as fuck. Sal is an ace. He's just a super warm,
I love
friendly,
the Comedy Hall. Sal's
guy.
Comedy Hall.
Yeah, Sal. He's got a new place. It's on Melrose now.
Oh, great! I'd love to promote that.
It's a real small place.
VIP part or VIP service now. now, or
what does that mean?
Valet service now starting this Wednesday.
Really?
Yeah, so because the parking was a little weird.
Give some
there.
foreign dude your keys and
Yeah.
make sure he doesn't steal your weed.
Yeah.
I'm all
right.
man.
Listen, bitches, you know we love you. And we will see you tomorrow with Joey Coco Diaz, none other than one of the other funniest human beings, funny experiences. You know what the fuck I'm talking about, bitches. All right. Love you guys. Winning.